Chapter 1959. Oh no, it's a peak half-step heaven immortal. Retreat quickly. Avoid direct contact with him. Let him fight with the people of the Heaven Secret sect first. We'll wait and see. Sensing the terrifying aura exuding from Ningyu, the martial artist hiding in the void around them exclaimed in shock. While exclaiming, the martial artists hiding in the void hurriedly retreated. They did not dare to stay any longer. Ningyu had already displayed the strength of a peak half-step heaven immortal. If they stayed any longer and offended Ningyu, only death would await them. They knew that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Moreover, they were only retreating temporarily. They would wait for the conflict between Ningyu and the people of the Heaven Secret sect before making their move. Tell me, where is Zhao Rui? After ordering the martial artist hiding in the void to retreat, Ningyu turned to look at God Lin and said lightly, Zhao Rui is in the Heaven Secret's palace. God Lin wanted to fight Ningyu head-on, but he eventually realized that he was no match for Ningyu. He had no choice but to answer honestly. Very well, bring me to the Heaven Secret's palace now. Ningyu nodded in satisfaction and said, to be honest, God Lin did not want to go to the Heaven Secret's palace. After all, the people of the Heaven Secret sect were powerful and vengeful. Most importantly, they knew the Heaven Secret's art. However, since Ningyu had asked him to go, he had to go. At the same time, in the Heaven Secret's palace, there were 3 martial artists in the Heaven Secret's palace at the moment. The cultivation of these 3 martial artists was not particularly high. They were all mid-level, half-step heaven immortals. Dong, one of the martial artists with long hair, knocked on the table and said lightly, a peak half-step heaven immortal has come to the Fiend restaurant. I heard that he is here for Zhao Rui. What should we do now? What else can we do? He's just a peak half-step heaven immortal. I don't believe he would dare to cause trouble in our Heaven Secret's palace, another short-haired martial artist said disdainfully. That's right. Let alone 1 peak half-step heavenly immortal. Even if there are 2 or 3 peak half-step heavenly immortals, we will still be fearless. The last martial artist was a woman. She was about 40 years old and was dressed in a tight outfit. Forget it. Let's not talk about him. Speaking of which, are we really going to discuss how to deal with Zhao Rui with the other sex in 3 days? The long-haired martial artist waved his hand and changed the topic. In the eyes of the long-haired martial artist, Ningyu was just a small problem. What they needed to worry about was the banquet in 3 days. A feast at Hongmen. Although the banquet 3 days later was for Zhao Rui, everyone knew that the banquet 3 days later was a Hongmen banquet. Forces like the Devil's Restaurant, the Primeval Demon Sect, and the Sacred Divine Palace were existences that ruled over several territories in the high-level plains. The peerless divine princes of their sects were all peak half-step heaven immortals. The Heaven Fortune sect didn't have to worry about 2 or 3 peak half-step heaven immortals. However, if there were more than 10 peak half-step heaven immortals, the Heaven Fortune sect would have to think twice. After all, the peerless divine princes of powerful forces like the Devil's Restaurant and the Primeval Demon sect were among the top of the longevity roll in their respective territories. Zhao Rui was captured by the Heaven Fortune sect, so she should belong to us. The short-haired martial artist snorted and said, their sect has divine princes who descended from the high-level planes, but so does our Heaven Fortune sect. That's right. Zhao Rui has a spirit body that is hard to come by in 10,000 years. Besides, she is the one that the senior members of the sect wanted. How could someone come? The woman in the tight outfit nodded. Just as she was about to say something, she suddenly stood up and said in a deep voice, how dare he come to the Heaven Fortune sect? I think he must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. The long-haired martial artist and the short-haired martial artist looked at each other and saw a trace of viciousness in each other's eyes. In the City of Devils, the Heaven Fortune sect was the well-deserved overlord. They were the only ones who bullied others, and no one had ever dared to bully them. How could they not be angry when someone came to fight? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The long-haired martial artist, the short-haired martial artist, and the woman in the tight outfit. The 3 of them stomped on the ground and rushed out. Kid, I don't care who you are. Since you dared to provoke the Heaven Fortune sect today, you must be prepared to be killed. The three figures arrived in front of the Heaven Fortune Palace in the blink of an eye. Without much nonsense, they directly attacked Ningyu. Swoosh! Looking at the three figures rushing toward him, Ningyu's face was indifferent. He shook his wrist and threw Divine Prince Lin out. Anyway, he and the Heaven Fortune sect were already in a situation where only one of them could survive. Now, he felt no burden in his heart when facing the people of the Heaven Fortune sect. Moreover, the people of the Heaven Fortune sect had captured Zhao Hang's sister, Zhao Rui, which made Ningyu even more furious. The three of you, don't make a move. I am from the Multitude Fiend Restaurant. Seeing Ningyu throw him out, Divine Prince Lin was so frightened that his entire body trembled. He could not help shouting. The people of the Heaven Fortune sect appeared sanctimonious and dignified on the surface. However, when they became ruthless, they were all vicious and merciless. They were not inferior to the Multitude Fiend Restaurant. Landing in the hands of the people of the Heaven Fortune sect was no better than landing in the hands of Ningyu. I don't care where you are from. Since you dare to behave atrociously in the Heaven Fortune sect, there is only one outcome for you: death. The long-haired martial artist appeared very unyielding. He clenched his right fist and punched Divine Prince Lin's head. Bang! The long-haired martial artist's punch was very powerful, causing Divine Prince Lin's head to explode. Blood and brains splattered everywhere, filling the air with a bloody mist. Gasp! Seeing the long-haired martial artist attack without hesitation, the people hidden in the surrounding void all sucked in a breath of cold air. However, while they sucked in cold air, they also felt very doubtful. Although the people of the Heaven Fortune sect were very domineering, it was impossible for them to directly attack the people of the Multitude Fiend Restaurant. This was because the Multitude Fiend Restaurant was a huge faction that controlled several dominions in a high-level plane. It was comparable to the Heaven Fortune sect. Could a Heaven Immortal from the Heaven Fortune sect have descended? It's hard to say. Otherwise, the people of the Heaven Fortune sect wouldn't be so domineering. That's impossible. The Immortal Spirit Plane is a low-level plane. It can't withstand the impact of a Heaven Immortal. I got it. Suddenly, a martial artist in the void exclaimed, "It should be Zhao Rui." Zhao Rui is just a spiritual body that appears once in 10,000 years. The Heaven Fortune sect shouldn't be in conflict with factions like us because of her. That's hard to say. After all, we haven't had any contact with Zhao Rui. We don't know what's so special about her. It's really possible. Everyone in the Heaven Fortune sect knows the Heaven Fortune art. They naturally have their reasons for doing this. Let's not talk about it. Let's watch this battle first. Rumble. In midair, Ningyu started fighting with the long-haired martial artist and the others. Facing the long-haired martial artist, Ningyu raised his right leg and kicked out. Ningyu's kick seemed ordinary, but it actually contained an extremely terrifying force. Ningyu knew that everyone in the Heaven Fortune sect had a Heaven Fortune Stone. Once the Heaven Fortune Stone was activated, their strength would instantly increase by several times. Chapter 1960. Oh no! The long-haired martial artist exclaimed in shock when he saw the terrifying Yuan Qi contained in Ningyu's fist. Initially, the long-haired martial artist thought that although Ningyu was a peak half-step Heaven Immortal, he should be able to fight or even kill Ningyu since he knew the Heavenly Fortune art and possessed the Heavenly Fortune Stone. However, the strength that Ningyu had just displayed was truly frightening. Heavenly Fortune. In a moment of desperation, the long-haired martial artist immediately decided to use the Heavenly Fortune Stone. Crack! However, as soon as the long-haired martial artist took out the Heavenly Fortune Stone, Ningyu's fist arrived before him and landed a heavy blow on his head. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. Just like how Godson Lin's head was struck, the long-haired martial artist's head exploded on the spot and blood splattered everywhere. What? The short-haired martial artist and a lady's eyes widened when they saw the long-haired martial artist being killed by a single punch. They stopped abruptly in midair. Before they attacked Ningyu, They would never have thought that the long-haired martial artist would be killed by a single punch. One should know that although the long-haired martial artist was only a mid-level half-step heaven immortal, his overall strength had reached the level of an upper-level half-step heaven immortal. Most importantly, the long-haired martial artist still had the heavenly fortune stone with him. Ning Yu was so powerful that the long-haired martial artist could not even use the heavenly fortune stone. Swoosh! At this moment, the short-haired martial artist and the lady's expressions changed drastically again. The reason was none other than Ning Yu's figure flashed as he charged toward the long-haired martial artist. As the long-haired martial artist died too quickly, the heavenly fortune stone on him was not destroyed in time. Ning Yu's combat strength was already so powerful without the heavenly fortune stone. If he obtained the long-haired martial artist's heavenly fortune stone, how powerful would his combat strength be? By then, even their heaven fortune sect would not be able to do anything to Ning Yu. Therefore, the heavenly fortune stone must not fall into the hands of Ning Yu. Buzz! In order to prevent the heaven fate stone from falling into the hands of Ning Yu, the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman immediately used their heaven fate stones. It was only for a moment. Just like that, the aura of the short-haired warrior and the tight-fitting woman rose from the mid-level half-step heaven immortal realm to the upper-level half-step heaven immortal realm, and it kept rising. Pung! A muffled sound rang out. The aura of the short-haired martial artist and the woman had increased to the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm. Die! After their auras increased to the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm, the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman were instantly filled with confidence and shouted at Ning Yu. At the same time, the two of them also punched out. Huge fist lights separated from their fists and fiercely blasted towards Ning Yu. Chi-Chi! How powerful was the full power of a peak half-step heaven immortal? Space exploded as the cultivators hidden in the void were blasted out. Noisy! Ning Yu didn't even turn his head as he casually sent out 2 palm strikes. Crack! Crack! The 2 palm prints sent out by Ning Yu instantly collided with the 2 fist lights unleashed by the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. A crisp sound rang out. The 2 fist lights only lasted for a second before vanishing into thin air. On the other hand, the 2 palm prints sent out by Ning Yu continued to move forward. However, they were now targeting the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. Damn it! The short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman couldn't help but curse inwardly. They had no choice but to temporarily give up on Ning Yu and fight against the 2 palm prints in front of them. Whoosh! After spending a great deal of effort to resist Ning Yu's palm prints, the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman realized that Ning Yu had already taken the heavenly secret stone from the long-haired martial artist. This is bad. Quickly inform the elders. Upon seeing the heavenly secret stone in Ning Yu's hand, the short-haired martial artist hurriedly yelled into the heavenly secret hall. Someone is barging into the heavenly secret hall. Elders, please kill him. The tight-fitting woman echoed. Elders, please do it. How troublesome. After keeping the heavenly secret stone, Ning Yu turned around and charged at the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. Ning Yu wasn't stupid. He already knew that there were 3 powerful martial artists in the heavenly secret hall. It was just that the 3 powerful warriors were in a triangular formation, and in the middle of them was a young woman. Without a doubt, the young lady was Zhao Rui. After all, Zhao Rui was in their hands. Therefore, Ning Yu wouldn't barge into the heavenly secret hall recklessly. What he needed to do was to kill the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman to force the 3 experts out of the heavenly secret hall. This was the only way to ensure Zhao Rui's safety. Remember to be a good person in your next life. Don't offend those you shouldn't. Although the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman had activated the heavenly secret stone, their strength was only around that of a peak half-step heaven immortal. It wouldn't take too much effort for Ning Yu to kill them. After all, there was already a faint trace of great Tao energy being born in his body. Puffed, puffed. Ning Yu's body turned into an afterimage as he passed between the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. After that, two sounds of blood spurting could be heard. The short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. Whoosh! Immediately, the crowd was in an uproar. When Ning Yu defeated God Lin was only an upper-class half-step heaven immortal after all. Even the long-haired martial artist wasn't much stronger than God Lin before he used the heavenly secret stone. However, now that Ning Yu had defeated the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman head-on, it really shocked them. One should know that the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman had used the heavenly secret stone to increase their cultivation to a peak half-step heaven immortal. Since Ning Yu had defeated the two of them so easily, didn't that mean that Ning Yu's strength was already comparable to the peerless divine sons of the major forces? At the thought of this, the surrounding martial artists couldn't help but look up to Ning Yu a little more. They started to look forward to it. They all knew that there were three powerful martial artists in the Heavenly Secret Palace. It was because of the existence of these three martial artists that the Heavenly Secret Sect could dominate the City of Demons. If Ning Yu could defeat or even kill those three experts, then the Heaven's Secret Sect position in the City of Demons would plummet and be surpassed by the Heaven's Secret Sect. Run! The short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman didn't dare to fight with Ning Yu anymore. They only had one thought in mind, which was to escape this area as soon as possible and return to the Heavenly Secret Palace. Die! How could Ning Yu allow the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman to escape? He grabbed at the void with his right hand, and the space immediately became distorted. With a flick of his wrist, two rays of cold light flew out of Ning Yu's hands. The speed of the cold light was very fast. In almost an instant, it arrived in front of the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. "Elder, save me!" In a moment of desperation, the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman shouted at the top of their lungs. Chapter 1961. Brat, how dare you! Before the cold light hit the short-haired martial artist and the woman, a roar came from the secret heaven hall. "Let's get rid of them first. I'll settle the score with you later." Ning Yu's expression was indifferent. He waved his hands and threw out two more cold lights. Poochie! Poochie! The result was obvious. For beams of cold light landed on the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. The short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman both vomited a mouthful of dark red blood. They both fell to the ground, their auras extremely weak. Swoosh! At this moment, two figures darted out from beside Ning Yu and rushed towards the short-haired martial artist and the woman. These two figures were none other than the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. After successfully passing the human immortal tribulation, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu's cultivation had reached the great circle of human immortal realm. Their combined strength was around the mid-level, half-step heaven immortal. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that their devouring ability had a qualitative breakthrough. Previously, when they devoured martial artists, they could not devour them completely. There was energy loss. But now, they could devour a martial artist completely. The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu had a clear division of labor. One rushed towards the short-haired martial artist, the other towards the woman. What are they doing? I don't know. Are they going to save the people of the Secret Heaven sect? How is that possible? They are obviously with Ning Yu. In my opinion, they're going to devour the short-haired martial artist and the woman. Swoosh! As soon as the last martial artist finished his words, the surroundings burst into an uproar. Devouring the short-haired martial artist and the woman? What a joke! The short-haired martial artist and the woman's cultivation were mid-level half-step heaven immortals. After using the secret heaven stone, their cultivation had reached the peak of half-step heaven immortals. The black dog and the child were only in the great circle of human immortals. Two great circle of human immortals wanted to devour two mid-level, half-step heaven immortals. They must be crazy. Swoosh! The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu did not take the mockery of the surrounding martial artists to heart. They acted in unison and began their devouring journey. In an instant, the energy in the body of the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman was reduced by 1/3. The speed at which the energy was decreasing caused the surrounding martial artists to suck in a breath of cold air. Now, they finally believed that there was always someone better out there. Even if it were them, they wouldn't be able to devour the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman in such a short period of time. Still not coming out. Ningyu frowned as he stared at the entrance of the Oracle Hall. Just now, when he was about to kill the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman, a roar came from the secret Heaven Palace. Why'd they give up now? No matter how he looked at it, it didn't make sense. Kaka. However, what Ningyu didn't know was that the three experts in the secret Heaven Hall were trembling with rage, and their teeth were chattering. Losing 3 mid-level half-step heavenly immortals in one fell swoop. Not to mention, those were mid-level half-step heavenly immortals with heavenly secret stones. Even their heavenly secrets sect was finding it hard to accept. This was because a mid-level half-step heavenly immortal could hold up half the sky of a sect regardless of where they were. They were the higher-ups of a sect. You two stay here and watch. I'll kill my way out and bring him to justice. Among the 3 old men, one was dressed in gray, one in black, and the last in blue. At that moment, the old man in gray rose to his feet and said coldly, "Anyone who dares to behave atrociously in the heavenly secrets sect must die." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the gray-robed old man did not wait for the other 2 old men to react before his figure flashed, and he charged out. "When did you come out?" Outside the heavenly secrets palace, Ningyu stood in mid-air with his hands behind his back. His eyes were slightly closed. Ningyu knew that there were a total of 3 peak half-step heavenly immortal experts in the heavenly secrets palace. There was a terrifying array formation surrounding the 3 of them. The reason he did not barge into the heavenly secrets palace was because he was afraid that Zhao Rui would be hurt. After all, his goal was to rescue Zhao Rui, not to kill everyone in the heavenly secrets palace. Otherwise, why would he still be here talking nonsense? He would have already destroyed the heavenly secrets palace. "Brat, how dare you offend our heavenly secrets palace? This day next year will be the anniversary of your death." The old man in gray moved so fast that he appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. He clenched his right hand into a fist and threw a punch that brought a terrifying yuan chi gale toward Ningyu's head. Hiss! The gray-robed old man's punch caused the surrounding martial artists to suck in a breath of cold air. This punch is enough to kill an upper-level half-step heavenly immortal. A martial artist exclaimed. An upper-level half-step heavenly immortal? A martial artist next to him curled his lips disdainfully and said, "Not even an ordinary peak half-step heavenly immortal can withstand this punch." Whoosh! The martial artist's words caused an uproar in the surroundings. No matter how they looked at it, they didn't think that the gray-clothed martial artist could kill a peak half-step heavenly immortal with a single punch. Sigh, I thought Ningyu could pose a threat to the heavenly secrets sect. Who would have thought that he's just an embroidered pillow? That's right. Ningyu can only bully upper-level half-step heavenly immortals. When he encounters a true peak half-step heavenly immortal, only death awaits him. Forget it. Let's disperse, lest the people from the heavenly secrets sect come after us. The surrounding martial artists had a bad impression of Ningyu. At this moment, they seemed to have forgotten the terrifying combat strength that Ningyu had displayed when he killed the short-haired martial artist and the tight-fitting woman. Some people were like this, always believing the wind to be the rain. The grass on the fence would fall in the face of the wind. Ningyu didn't have the time to care about the reactions of these grass on the fence. He looked at the approaching gray-clothed old man, clenched his right fist, and casually threw a punch. Arrogant. The gray-clothed old man was infuriated when he saw how casually Ningyu dealt with his attack. This was the first time the gray-clothed old man was being looked down upon by a great perfection human immortal realm martial artist. The gray-clothed old man let out a furious roar. Subsequently, the gray-clothed old man's other fist suddenly blasted out, smashing toward Ningyu's head. Crack! Crack! In the next moment, 2 crisp sounds came from between Ningyu and the gray-clothed old man. What's going on? Who won? Isn't it obvious? It must be the gray-clothed old man from the Heavenly Secrets sect. That's right. Ningyu is only a great perfection human immortal realm martial artist, while the gray-clothed old man is a peak half-step heavenly immortal. No matter how I look at it, the gray-clothed old man should be the winner. The surrounding martial artists were slightly puzzled when they saw Ningyu and the gray-clothed old man retreating several feet at the same time. However, despite their doubts, the martial artists still had high hopes for the gray-clothed old man. After all, the gray-clothed old man was a peak half-step heavenly immortal, and he had the Heavenly Secrets Stone. Chapter 1962. Is that all you've got? However, just when everyone thought the gray-clothed old man was going to win, an indifferent and slightly disdainful voice resounded in the area. Whoosh! Everyone shifted their gaze in the direction where the voice came from. Gasp! What they saw caused the surrounding cultivators to suck in a breath of cold air. The person who spoke was none other than Ningyu, who was fighting the gray-clothed old man earlier. Ningyu was currently hovering in the air with his arms crossed in front of his chest, looking indifferent. On the other hand, the gray-clothed old man was lying on the ground like a dead dog. His aura was extremely weak. Some of the sharp-eyed martial artists noticed that the gray-clothed old man's fists had already been smashed into a bloody pulp. Everyone's faces were filled with bitterness. At this moment, even the stupidest person knew that the gray-clothed old man had been utterly defeated. This is infuriating. This is infuriating. The gray-clothed old man supported himself with his elbow and struggled to stand up. He yelled at Ningyu, "You're finished. No one in this world can save you. Heavenly Fortune, you talk too much." Before the old man could finish his sentence, Ningyu had already chased after him and raised his right leg. Ningyu knew very well that the gray-clothed old man's cultivation base was at the peak of the half-step heaven immortal realm. If he used the Heavenly Fortune Stone, his strength would definitely improve significantly. Although Ningyu was not afraid of the gray-clothed old man who had improved his strength, it was always better to have less trouble. Crack! Ningyu was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, his right leg landed on the gray-clothed old man's neck. A crack was heard. The gray-clothed old man's eyes widened and his mouth was agape. His face was filled with disbelief. The gray-clothed old man would never have thought that he would be defeated by a perfected human immortal realm martial artist. Not only that, he was utterly defeated. Ding! The Heavenly Fortune Stone in his hand fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Bang! Following that, the gray-robed old man's eyes dimmed, and his aura rapidly fell to rock bottom. You want to leave? Although the old man's aura had fallen to rock bottom, Ningyu knew very well that the old man's soul was still intact. As long as the primordial spirit escaped, the gray-robed old man could possess another person to be reborn and cultivate again. Ningyu was very clear about the principle that weeds would grow again if the roots were not removed. Therefore, he had been paying attention to the gray-robed elder's corpse. As soon as the cold light shot out from the gray-robed elder's body, he rushed out and drew the red demon's sword. Although the red devil sword had fallen into a deep slumber along with the red devil after devouring the tribulation clouds and tribulation fluid, Ningyu knew that only it could trap the gray-robed old man's soul. After all, the gray-robed old man was a peak half-step heaven immortal, and his primordial spirit was not too weak. You can't kill me. I'm a high-ranking member of the Heavenly Secrets sect. Killing me is equivalent to offending the entire Heavenly Secrets sect. Some people could explode with shocking combat power in the face of death. However, most people would choose to kneel and beg for mercy in the face of death. The gray-robed old man was obviously the latter. He controlled his primordial spirit to appear, kneeling and begging Ningyu for mercy. As long as you don't kill me, I can ask the high-ranking members of the Heavenly Secrets sect to make an exception and promote you to a godson. You'll enjoy the best treatment in the Heavenly Secrets sect. Moreover, I'll give you resources, a large amount of resources, so that you can advance to an Earth Immortal or even a Heaven Immortal in a short period of time. Ningyu looked at the gray-robed old man's primordial spirit without saying a word. A while later, after the gray-robed old man stopped begging, Ningyu said calmly, "Your promise is very tempting." Phew! The gray-robed old man heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Ningyu's words. The worry in his heart was slightly alleviated. As long as Ningyu didn't kill him now, he would show Ningyu what cruelty was once the blue-robed old man and black-robed old man from the Heavenly Secrets sect recovered. "Don't worry. I'll protect you when we get to the high-ranking members." The gray-robed old man continued to brag when he saw that Ningyu was tempted. He wanted to use sugar-coated bullets to destroy Ningyu's psychological defenses. However, who was Ningyu? Even if the gray-robed old man doubled his offer, he would not be tempted, let alone the fact that the gray-robed old man's offer was already tempting. Ningyu's standard was to believe what he heard, and to see was to believe. Don't try to be modest with me. I won't fall for that. The reason why Ningyu wasn't in a hurry to kill the gray-robed old man's Yuan spirit was because he was afraid that the two experts from the Heavenly Secrets sect would use Zhao Rui to threaten him. After all, his goal in coming here was to save Zhao Rui. If the two experts from the Heavenly Secrets sect used Zhao Rui to threaten him, he would have to hold back. This was the reason why he left the old man's Yuan spirit behind. "Ningyu, should we?" Human Devil came to Ningyu's side and whispered. Although the human demon didn't say the rest, Ningyu knew what he was talking about. The human demon was worried that leaving the old man's Yuan spirit behind would cause unforeseen events. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Waving his hand at the human demon, Ningyu whispered, "If the two powerhouses come out of the Heavenly Mystery Hall later, you'll be the first to enter the Heavenly Mystery Hall and find a way to break the array formation to save Zhao Rui." Understood. The human demon opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he chose to shut it in the end. Having been with Ningyu for so long, the human demon understood Ningyu's way of doing things very well. He wouldn't fight a battle he wasn't confident in. Since Ningyu was so confident, it meant that Ningyu had at least a 90% chance of winning. Drip, drip, drip. Time was ticking away. Faced with the old man's incessant chatter, Ningyu put away the red demon's sword and closed his eyes to rest. Why isn't he coming out yet? The old man was very anxious. His physical body had already been destroyed. If he could not find another suitable body to possess in a short period of time, then with every passing minute, his primordial spirit would weaken a little bit. Therefore, he kept urging the two powerhouses in the secret heaven hall to settle Zhao Rui down as soon as possible and come out to kill Ningyu. Rise! Inside the Heavenly Secrets sect, the black-robed and blue-robed old man waved their hands and shot to their feet, growling seal. As the black-clothed and blue-clothed old men spoke, several terrifying pillars of light rose from their surroundings, instantly enveloping Zhao Rui. Originally, there was an array formation around Zhao Rui, and now there were several terrifying light pillars. It could be said that Zhao Rui was now absolutely safe. Even a peak half-step heavenly immortal wouldn't be able to take Zhao Rui away. Let's go. I'd like to see just how strong this Ningyu is. The black-robed old man stomped on the ground, ready to charge out. Wait. Chapter 1963. Makes sense. The black-robed old man was startled when he heard the blue-robed old man's words. He then took out the heavenly fortune stone. Buzz. The black-robed old man did not waste any time. He immediately activated the heavenly fortune stone. Following a buzzing sound, the black-robed old man's aura skyrocketed rapidly. The black-robed old man was initially a peak half-step heaven immortal. Now that he activated the heavenly fortune stone, his aura skyrocketed once again, approaching the heaven immortal realm. That being said, the black-robed old man who was approaching the heaven immortal realm was still slightly weaker than a cultivator who possessed a trace of great Tao energy. After all, a cultivator who possessed great Tao energy could, in a certain sense, unleash a portion of the strength of a heaven immortal. Crack! As the black-robed old man's aura grew stronger, The surrounding void began to emit cracking sounds. While the black-robed old man was activating the heavenly fortune stone, the blue-robed old man was not idling around either. He too activated the heavenly fortune stone, causing his aura to skyrocket. In just a short period of time, the blue-robed old man's aura had increased to the same level as the black-robed old man's. Let's go. The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man's confidence skyrocketed after their auras increased. They stomped the ground and charged forward. Whoosh! The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man were extremely quick. They charged out of the heavenly fortune hall in the blink of an eye. Because they had unleashed their auras without holding back, the surrounding cultivators once again felt a deep sense of fear. Previously, when Ningyu unleashed his aura, it was already shocking enough. Now, the auras unleashed by the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man were obviously stronger than Ningyu's. Therefore, the cultivators began to discuss among themselves once again. Ningyu is done for. That's right. He's destined to suffer for offending the heavenly fortune hall. It's hard to say. Ningyu isn't weak either. A rational cultivator analyzed. Ningyu did not use his full strength when he killed the gray-robed old man. Even if the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man's auras are slightly stronger than Ningyu's, I believe Ningyu still has the strength to fight them. He still has the strength to fight the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man. You're probably sure, Leji, Ningyu will definitely lose. This time, he won't be able to escape. I guarantee with my head that Ningyu can only last 3 moves. After 3 moves, his head will be chopped off. The surrounding martial artists discussed spiritedly. What was different from the last time was that no one was optimistic about Ningyu, but this time, some warriors were optimistic about Ningyu. After all, Ningyu was able to easily defeat the gray-robed old man, which meant that he was very powerful. Faced with the 2 old men who were charging at him, Ningyu appeared calm and collected. He did not seem nervous at all. Ningyu even said to the human demon, "Think of a way to save Zhao Rui." Understood. The human devil's face was solemn as he moved toward the heavenly mysteries hall. This is too much. The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man gnashed their teeth in anger when they saw Ningyu's calm appearance. They had activated the heavenly fate stone. One must know that after activating the heavenly fate stone, their battle prowess was infinitely close to that of a cultivator who possessed a trace of great Tao force. They admitted that Ningyu could defeat the gray-robed old man, but they did not think that Ningyu could defeat them. Ha ha ha! The gray-robed old man could not help but laugh when he saw the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man charge out. Ningyu, I advise you to quickly kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Also, hand over your body to me. Otherwise, I will noisy. Before the gray-robed old man could finish his sentence, Ningyu drew the red demon sword and flung it at the gray-robed old man's weakened Yuan Shun. The red demon sword was extremely fast. It struck the gray-robed old man's Yuan Shun almost instantly. A clear sound rang out. The gray-robed old man's body disintegrated at an astonishing speed and was absorbed by the red demon sword. You're courting death. The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man immediately cried out when they saw Ningyu kill the gray-robed old man's Yuan Shun. The 3 of them had worked together for many years. Now that one of them had been killed, how could the other 2 not be furious? Hence, the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man unreservedly threw their fists at Ningyu. For iron-like fists smashed towards Ningyu's head like storm. Ningyu immediately recalled the red demon sword and slashed out 4 times in an instant. Crack, 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 crack. For clear sounds rang out as the 4 swords slashed out. Ah! Next, several hysterical roars rang out in everyone's ears. How is this possible? Everyone was astonished. No matter what, they could never have imagined that the ending would be like this. 4 swords. Ningyu had only slashed out 4 times to push back the black-robed old man and the others. You're finished. No one in this world can save you. The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man were furious. Since when had the 2 of them ever suffered such humiliation. Shameful, simply shameful. They had actually failed to kill Ningyu in a single move even after activating the Heavenly Secret Stone. This was unimaginable in the past. Fortunately, I didn't use my full strength. Ningyu stared straight at the Heavenly Secrets Hall and frowned slightly as he mumbled, "Looks like I'll have to rely on the two of them to save Zhao Rui." The reason why Ningyu didn't immediately activate the trace of Dao energy in his body to deal with the black-clad old man and the blue-clad old man was because he was waiting for the demonic human in the Heavenly Secrets Hall to successfully rescue Zhao Rui. He had to spare the black-robed old man or the blue-robed old man before Zhao Rui was rescued. As expected, Ningyu was right to do so. Even though the human demon tried his best, he could not break the formation and light pillar surrounding Zhao Rui. "I'll give you a chance to live. I'll spare the life of whoever is willing to let Zhao Rui go." Ningyu stared at the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man and said calmly, "I'll kill you like slaughtering a dog." The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man roared at the same time, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Ningyu's expression turned cold as he charged forward. Ningyu only had one target, the black-robed old man. As for the blue-robed old man, Ningyu did not want to kill him for now. After all, Zhao Rui was trapped in the formation and light pillar. Someone had to step forward to rescue her. "Let's attack together." The black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man had serious expressions. They stomped the ground and kicked out simultaneously. Since their fists had been injured by the red demon sword, they could only use their feet. Die. This time, Ningyu did not hold back. He wrapped the great Dao energy in his body around the red demon's sword and slashed. Although the black-robed old man and the blue-robed old man were charging at Ningyu, Ningyu only had one target, the black-robed old man. "Brat, you're courting death." Chapter 1964. Someone's here. Who is it? Who dares to talk to Ningyu like that? I think that person must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Hee hee. No matter who he is, this is going to be a good show. That's right, but there must be someone who can fight Ningyu to a draw. Outside the Tianji Palace, many martial artists were discussing in low voices. This time, they were more inclined to believe that the newcomer could fight against Ningyu. After all, the power that Ningyu had displayed was too powerful. Even the old man in a black outfit and the old man in a blue outfit who had used the Heaven Secret Stone were no match for him. If this continued, Ningyu would dominate the town of demons. Therefore, if there was someone who could fight against Ningyu, they would definitely clap their hands and praise him. Wait, why does it sound like the divine prince of the Tianji Palace is back? At this moment, one of the martial artists shouted, "Boom!" This warrior's words immediately caused a huge uproar in the surroundings. The divine prince of the Wuji Palace. He was a legend who was ranked in the top 5 of the longevity roll in many territories. Every territory had a longevity roll. In the weaker territories, the overlords on the longevity roll weren't very powerful. They didn't even have a peak stage half-sky immortal. But in the stronger territories, the longevity roll was very powerful. Some of them could even fight against real sky immortals. The divine prince of the Wuji Palace was ranked in the top 5 of the longevity roll in many territories, which was enough to prove his strength. Ningyu is finished. The people of the primeval demon sect had sentenced Ningyu to death. Let's work together and capture a few of Ningyu's friends. The people of the sacred divine palace shouted, "Kill Ningyu and turn Ningyu's bones into ashes." The few remaining cats in the fiend restaurant were roaring with all their might. Whoosh! The divine prince of the Wuji Palace was very fast. From a moment he shouted out explosively to the moment he arrived before the secret hall, only 0.001 seconds had passed. Let them go or die. The divine prince of the Wuji sect only said one sentence. He stood where he was, his whole body burning like a raging fire. A terrifying pressure spread out in all directions, making it hard for everyone to breathe. That was the divine prince of the Wuji sect, the genius who had defeated many of the longevity roll. Even in the Heaven Secret sect, the Wuji divine prince was one of the best. He was a heaven immortal seed. Generally speaking, the divine princes of the major forces were all beings who could become sky immortals. However, those who could be called heaven immortal seeds were definitely the top 3 divine princes of their respective sections. Godchild Lin, whom Ningyu had killed previously, probably couldn't even be ranked in the top 10 among the forces behind the Devil's Restaurant. Wouldn't I lose face if I let you go, just because you want me to? Ningyu flicked his wrist, and the red demon sword instantly slashed out. Kacha! A clear sound rang out as the old man's head was instantly separated from his body. After the successful attack, Ningyu didn't stay idle. He waved the red demon sword in his hand and slashed at the old man in blue. Since the divine prince of the Wuji sect had appeared, the old man in blue and the old man in black had also lost their value. As long as he could capture the divine prince of the Wuji sect, he would be able to save Zhao Rui. Brat, I'll grind your bones into ashes. The divine prince of the Wuji sect had never thought that Ningyu would still dare to act so arrogantly after his arrival. He was so angry that his hair stood on end and his body was quickly burning. Swish! Before Ningyu could kill the old man in blue, the divine prince of the Wuji sect had already rushed to Ningyu and threw a punch. The divine prince of the Wuji sect's punch immediately changed the color of the world, and the sky exploded. Go to hell. Ningyu didn't care about the divine prince's punch at all. He still waved the red demon sword in his hand and slashed at the old man in blue's neck. Food had to be eaten one bite at a time, and people had to be killed one by one. Although he had defeated the old man in blue, the old man in blue was still quite powerful. If the old man in blue went to bully the Dark Emperor in Ninglu while he was fighting the divine prince of the Wuji sect, it wouldn't be worth it. Therefore, Ningyu's plan was to kill the old man in blue first, and then fight the divine prince of the Wuji sect. The more Ningyu thought about it, the more he did it. Divine prince, save! The old man in blue shouted as he looked at the red demon sword that was approaching him. Kacha! However, before the blue-robed old man could finish his roar, the red demon's sword had already landed on his neck. He raised his hand, and the sword fell. After killing the old man in blue, Ningyu turned around and started fighting the divine prince of the Wuji sect. The divine prince of the Wuji sect was very powerful. Ningyu felt a familiar aura from the divine prince of the Wuji sect. The power of the Great Path. Without a doubt, the divine prince of the Wuji sect had also cultivated a bit of Dao power. Ningyu couldn't be careless against the divine prince of the Wuji sect, who had the Dao power. He would definitely focus 100%. You're courting death. The divine prince of the Wuji sect roared and turned into a golden lion. His hair stood on end as he charged at Ningyu angrily. He's a golden lion? Ningyu was surprised to see the divine prince of the Wuji sect turn into a lion. He didn't think the Heaven Secret sect would accept a demonic beast as a disciple. However, the divine prince of the Wuji sect had changed his view. Besides, the divine prince of the Wuji sect was obviously a juvenile. In other words, there was an 80% chance that there was an adult golden lion in the Heaven Secret sect. The young golden lion had already cultivated a sliver of the power of the great Tao. One could imagine just how terrifying an adult golden lion would be. If nothing went wrong, it was very likely to be a true heavenly immortal. Ningyu shook his head and threw those thoughts out of his mind. After all, he was fighting a juvenile golden lion. I'd like to see whether your power of the Great Path is more terrifying, or if mine is. Ever since Ningyu had a bit of Dao power in his body, he had never seen another Dao power. However, Ningyu knew that Dao power could devour each other. In other words, if he could devour the Dao power of the divine prince of the Wuji sect, his strength would increase a lot. Bang! In an instant, Ningyu's fist collided with the divine prince of the Wuji sect's head. After the blow, Ningyu and the divine prince of the Wuji sect retreated a few feet. In this strike, both sides were evenly matched. SSS. The fact that Ningyu and the divine prince of the Wuji sect were evenly matched made the surrounding martial artists gasp. Who was the divine prince of the Wuji sect? He was one of the top few terrifying cultivators in the Heaven Secret sect. The fact that Ningyu could be evenly matched with him was indeed out of everyone's expectations. quickly informed the top management of the sect to let the peerless divine prince of the sect come down early. The people of the primordial demon sect shouted, "We can't delay any longer." The people of the sacred divine palace were still rational. Comparatively speaking, the remaining 2 or 3 cats in the Pandemonium restaurant were shivering in fear. Almost all of their experts in the city of demons had been killed by Ningyu. The few remaining experts had also left the city of demons to welcome the peerless divine prince of the sect. However, according to the original plan, the peerless divine prince of the fiend restaurant would need 3 days to arrive. 3 days. Chapter 1965. You're very strong. You've exceeded my expectations. The divine prince of the Wuji sect stood where he was and stared at Ningyu. The everlasting divine prince was not a fool. He could tell that Ningyu had also used the power of a great Tao. Otherwise, he would have been able to kill Ningyu with just that move of his. You're not weak either. Just SOSO. Ningyu swung his slightly swollen fist and said, "Barely enough to be my opponent." Ha ha! Suddenly, the divine prince of the Wuji sect started laughing maniacally. After laughing, his expression changed, and he said coldly, "Don't think that you're my opponent just because you have the power of a great Tao. I'll let you know that the power of a great Tao is also divided into strong and weak." As soon as the word split was said, the Wuji divine prince dashed out and opened his mouth. Swish! Suddenly, a golden ray of light shot out and attacked Ningyu at a terrifying speed. The power of a great Tao. The everlasting divine prince used the power of a great Tao again, trying to kill Ningyu with one blow. The everlasting divine prince has cultivated the power of a great Tao. Any martial artist who has cultivated the power of a great Tao is as powerful as a few peak half-heaven immortals. The Heaven Secret sect is indeed full of hidden talents. I wonder how much stronger the everlasting divine prince will become after he uses the Heaven Secret Stone. The surrounding martial artists discussed, shocked to the extreme. Normally, the top few peerless divine princes of the sects were almost the same in terms of power. However, things were different now that the everlasting divine prince had cultivated the power of a great Tao. That was because the power of a great Tao was exclusive to heaven immortals. As long as one cultivated the power of a great Tao, there was a 90% chance that he would become a half-heaven immortal. Go! In the face of the golden power of the great path that attacked him, Ningyu's expression was as calm as an ancient well. As he flicked his sleeve, a dark golden cold light rushed out. Without a doubt, this dark golden cold light was the energy of the Grand Tao. Since the limitless divine prince had already used the power of the great path, Ningyu might not be a match for the limitless divine prince if he did not use it. Humph! You're playing tricks on us. The Wuji divine prince grunted. The power of the great Tao that Ningyu displayed could not be discovered if one did not observe carefully. It could be said that in the entire area, there were only 3 people who could tell that Ningyu had unleashed the power of the great Tao. One was Ningyu himself, one was him, and the other was the human devil. Back in the higher planes, demonic humans were sky immortals. Naturally, they could distinguish the power of Grand Taos. Senior human demon, is Ningyu a match for the Wuji divine son? The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu looked worried. They could all tell that the Wuji divine prince was extremely powerful, to the point of being ridiculously powerful. Most importantly, the Wuji divine prince had also cultivated the power of the great Tao. How could Ningyu be a match for the Wuji divine prince if he didn't use the power of the great Tao? After all, Ningyu had hidden the power of the great Tao, so the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu couldn't tell that the dark golden light that Ningyu used was the power of the great Tao. It's okay. The human devil didn't waste any time. He only said 2 words to reassure the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu. He was a sky immortal after all. Even though he couldn't use the power of a sky immortal, his judgment was still very accurate. Boom! In an instant, the power of the great Tao that Ningyu had used clashed with the power of the Wuji divine prince. There was no earth-shattering sound when the 2 powers clashed. There was only a muffled sound. The The Wuji divine prince frowned. He found it unbelievable. Ning Yu's power of the Great Tao was on par with his power of the Great Tao. This was something he would never have expected. Umph. So what if your power of the Great Tao is on par with mine? My cultivation level is a few levels higher than yours. I can crush you with my aura alone. The Wuji divine prince grunted. Then, he unleashed his aura and pressed towards Ningyu. To the Wuji divine prince, he was a peak half-step sky immortal, while Ningyu was only a perfected human immortal. Crack, crack. As soon as the Wuji divine prince unleashed his aura, the surrounding void made a cracking sound. Then, an invisible pressure pressed down on Ningyu. No wonder he's the peerless divine prince of the Heaven's Secret sect. Someone exclaimed. The aura that the Wuji divine prince displayed was obviously many times stronger than the black-robed old man and the others. In other words, the Wuji divine prince could easily kill a few black-robed old men. Oh no, Ningyu is in trouble. The Dark Emperor's expression changed. He stomped the ground and was about to attack. Wait! Before the Dark Emperor could make a move, the human demon slapped his head and said solemnly, Ningyu won't be defeated so easily. Although the Wuji divine prince is strong, he might not be Ningyu's match. We have to believe in Ningyu. Ning Lu agreed. What's the use of believing? If Ningyu isn't a match for the Wuji divine prince, it'll be too late for us to attack. The Dark Emperor said anxiously. Don't worry, it won't be too late. As soon as the Dark Emperor said that, he heard an indifferent voice. Hearing that, the Dark Emperor was stunned at first. Then he looked over. It's you. This glance caused the Dark Emperor's expression to change drastically. The Sacred Divine Palace, the Primordial Demon Sect, and even a few people from the Fiend Restaurant got involved. They had teamed up because they felt that Ningyu would definitely be killed. Since Ningyu would definitely be killed, why didn't they team up to deal with Ningyu's friends? Haha, let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, surrender as soon as possible. That way, you can avoid death. A mid-level, half-step heaven immortal from the Primordial Demon Sect smiled and said, Otherwise, you'll regret coming to this world. Surrender, lick my toes, or die. The words of the half-step heaven immortal from the Sacred Divine Palace were more direct. Open your mind and let me control you. Otherwise, you'll die. The cultivators from the Fiend Restaurant weren't particularly arrogant because they were weaker. Their main goal was to control Ningyu's friends and make Ningyu hesitate. In the entire Fiend City, the Fiend Restaurant had suffered the greatest losses. Godchild Lin had been killed, and all the peak experts had been killed. This grudge could only be resolved by killing Ningyu. Therefore, now that they had a chance to deal with Ningyu's friends, the Fiend Restaurant was naturally duty-bound to do their best. Do you really think that Ningyu will definitely die? The human demon took a step forward and said coldly, instead of running away, going against Ningyu. I'll show you later. Ha 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 ha. A mid-level half-step heaven immortal from the Primordial Demon Sect laughed and said coldly. Chapter 1966. Just a bunch of clowns. The human demon looked at the mid-level half-step heaven immortal from Primordial Demon Sect and snorted. Killing you is as easy as killing dogs. Arrogant. Arrogant. He's simply too arrogant. Aren't you afraid of getting cut off by the wind? The people from Yuanshi Demon Sect, Saint Divine Palace, and Demon Crowd Restaurant shouted and charged at the human demon. They thought they were being ruthless enough, but the human demon was even more ruthless than them. How could they tolerate it? Therefore, the experts of the three sects attacked at the same time, wanting to get rid of the human demon first. From what they could see, among Ningyu's three friends, Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were only at the perfected stage of a mortal stage, so they should be the weakest. As for the human demon, he should be the strongest. As long as they got rid of the human demon first, the other two wouldn't be a threat. You overestimate yourself. The human demon's expression was calm as he faced the experts charging at him. He flicked his sleeves and shot out several cold rays. Not good. As soon as the human demon threw out the cold light, the faces of the experts from the Primeval Demon Sect and the Sacred Divine Palace changed. They realized that something was wrong. They thought the human demon was only a mid-level half-step heaven immortal, but the strength he displayed was already at the upper-level half-step heaven immortal level. The strongest among them was only a mid-level half-step heaven immortal, but the human demon was an upper-level half-step heaven immortal. Even 10 mid-level half-step heaven immortals wouldn't be a match for an upper-level half-step heaven immortal. Therefore, retreating was the best option. However, it was too late for them to retreat now. The cold rays shot out by the human demon were extremely fast and landed on their bodies in the blink of an eye. 3 mid-level half-step heaven immortals were killed in an instant. Kill! The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu did not stay idle when they saw the human demon displaying his might. They joined the battle as well. Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were both at the perfected stage of human immortal stage, and their combat strength was already at the mid-level half-step heaven immortal level. Now that they devoured a few more pinnacle experts, their strength increased rapidly, and they were about to break through to the upper-level half-step heaven immortal level. It didn't take much effort to deal with the experts from Yuanshi Demon Sect and Saint Divine Palace. Ka. The situation on this side was definitely Human Demon and Ning Lu's group's victory. On the contrary, the situation on the other side was not optimistic. At first, Ningyu was very calm when facing the pressure of the Wuji Divine Sun's aura. He didn't even frown. But as time passed, the aura of the Wuji Divine Prince became stronger and stronger. Now, he had become ridiculously powerful. The Divine Prince of the Wuji sect roared, and his aura increased again. Hong Mo. At the critical moment, Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground. He shouted in a deep voice. Ningyu felt that he might not be able to withstand the pressure of the limitless Divine Sun's aura alone. This was because the aura that the Wuji Divine Prince was exuding was already showing signs of breaking through to the heaven immortal level. No matter how strong Ningyu's body was, he could not withstand the pressure of a heaven immortal's aura. Unless he improved further and reached the earth immortal realm, he would absolutely not be able to withstand the pressure of a heaven immortal realm's aura. That was why Ningyu decided to contact Hong Mo. Hong Mo had been in seclusion inside the Red Demon Sword ever since he passed the human immortal tribulation. Even Ningyu didn't know if he had merged with the Red Demon Sword again. It's useless no matter who you call. You will definitely die today. The Divine Prince of the Wuji sect roared and blood spurted out of his mouth. His aura increased again. The Divine Prince of the Wuji sect knew very well that he could not kill Ningyu with the power of Tao alone. He could only rely on the trump card he brought from the high-level plane to deal with Ningyu. In fact, his trump card was very simple. It was to increase his aura at the cost of his own blood essence. Retreat now. It'll be too late if you wait any longer. Leave the city of demons, the further the better. Although the Divine Prince of the Wuji sect's aura was only aimed at Ningyu, the surrounding martial artists were still frightened and their expressions changed. Who could withstand the pressure of an aura that was infinitely close to a heaven immortal? Boom! Just when the surrounding martial artists were about to leave, an equally powerful aura shot up from Ningyu's body. What? How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. The surrounding martial artists stopped in their tracks when they felt the aura coming from Ningyu's body. It's that sword. Although the Divine Prince of the Wuji sect was shocked, he did not lose his mind. He stared at the red demon sword in Ningyu's hand with a gloomy expression. He had just said that it was useless for Ningyu to call for help, but now he had been slapped in the face. Although the aura that rushed out of the red demon sword was not as strong as the one he had unleashed, it was still able to withstand the pressure of his aura, allowing Ningyu to successfully escape. Withdraw. The Divine Prince of the Wuji sect took a deep breath and immediately withdrew his aura. Since he could not use his aura to kill Ningyu, the Divine Prince of the Wuji sect decided to use the Heaven Secret Stone. Every member of the Heaven Secret sect had a Heaven Secret Stone. As the peerless Divine Prince of the Heaven Secret sect, the Divine Prince of the Wuji sect had a total of 3. The Divine Prince of the Wuji sect shook his wrist and took out the first Heaven Secret Stone. It was a black stone. Oh no! As soon as the divine prince of the Wuji sect took out the heaven's secret stone, Ningyu realized that something was wrong. When the divine prince of the Wuji sect retracted his aura, the aura from the red demon's sword also disappeared. Ningyu knew that the red demon's sword must have helped. In terms of aura, the red demon's sword could help resist it. However, now that the divine prince of the Wuji sect had used the heaven's secret stone, Ningyu could only rely on himself. You can be proud of yourself even if I kill you after forcing me to use the first heaven's secret stone. The divine prince of the Wuji sect turned back into his human form and crushed the black heaven's secret stone in his hand. The divine prince of the Wuji sect opened his mouth and threw the heaven secret stone into it. Buzz, buzz. As the powdered heaven secret stone entered his stomach, the divine prince of the Wuji sect's injuries healed instantly, and his cultivation level increased rapidly. Do you think you're the only one with a heaven secret stone? Ningyu looked at the divine prince of the Wuji sect and took out his own heaven secret stone. Ningyu had killed many experts from the heaven secret sect, so he had 2 heaven secret stones on him. Of course, Ningyu's heaven secret stone was completely different from the divine prince of the Wuji sect's heaven secret stone. It could be said that the 2 heaven secret stones that Ningyu had were not as good as the black heaven secret stone that the divine prince of the Wuji sect had swallowed. I will use your blood to pay tribute to the experts of the heaven secret sect who died. The divine prince of the Wuji sect's eyes turned red when he saw the heaven secret stone in Ningyu's hand. He turned into the young golden lion again. The Wuji sect was currently the strongest immortal spirit realm expert of the heaven secret sect. He was also the leader. He was responsible for the deaths of the heaven secret sect's experts. Chapter 1967. Die! The limitless divine prince stomped the ground and dashed forward. After swallowing the divine fate stone, the limitless divine prince's combat power had increased again. Whoosh! The wind howled, and the limitless divine prince's hair stood up as if he was on fire. Swallow it! Looking at the golden lion that was rapidly approaching him, Ningyu exerted force in his hands, crushing the 2 heaven fate stones and swallowing the powder. Buzz! After swallowing the divine fate stones, Ningyu's aura increased rapidly. However, it was obvious that Ningyu's aura was much slower than the limitless divine prince's. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Ningyu's fist collided with the limitless divine prince's front claw. A crisp sound was heard. Then, Ningyu and the limitless divine prince retreated several feet at the same time. Judging from the distance they retreated, the limitless divine prince was obviously stronger than Ningyu. Burn! In a moment of desperation, Ningyu's blood flowed rapidly. The blood of the god of war body in his heart started to burn. Ningyu had the god of war body, a very powerful physique. Under normal circumstances, Ningyu wouldn't be able to compete with the limitless divine prince. However, after burning the blood of the god of war body, his strength increased again, and he was about to surpass the limitless divine prince. It's the god of war body. The limitless divine prince's face turned serious when he saw the dark golden gas coming out of Ningyu's body. In terms of body, it was a top-notch physique even in a high-level plane. Usually, a cultivator with the god of war body could easily defeat his opponent at the same cultivation level. That was why the limitless divine prince's face turned serious when he found out that Ningyu had the god of war body. The second divine fate stone, the Wuji divine prince took out the second piece of Tianji stone. It was a white stone. Crack! The limitless divine fate stone turned into powder with a little force. The limitless divine prince opened his mouth and threw the powdered divine fate stone into it. Bang! As soon as the powdered heaven fate stone entered the Wuji divine prince's mouth, a muffled sound came from his body. Kill! Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground. His body turned into a blur and suddenly rushed out. The current Ningyu was at his strongest since his rebirth. The void exploded and Ningyu appeared in front of the Wuji divine sun in an instant. He threw another punch. Whoosh! In the face of Ningyu's deadly attack, the Wuji divine son swung his tail and whipped at Ningyu's neck. The golden lion's entire body was very tough, especially its tail, which was the toughest part of its body. In the high-level planes, there were basically no martial artists who dared to go head-on against the golden lion's tail. "You're still not going to die?" The divine prince of the Wuji sect roared like an enraged baboon. "Kacha!" However, as soon as the Wuji divine prince finished speaking, his face became distorted. A crisp sound was heard. Then, the Wuji divine prince fell to the ground. "This is impossible." The divine son of the Wuji sect stood up and exclaimed, "How can your body be stronger than mine?" The Wuji divine prince couldn't understand. He was a golden lion, so his body was very tough. Besides, his tail was the toughest part of his body. When his tail came into contact with Ningyu's fist, he didn't win. Instead, a few of his tailbones were broken. He couldn't have imagined such a situation before. Nothing is impossible. You lost because you were careless. After the successful attack, Ningyu did not continue to attack. Instead, he stood on the spot, shook his slightly swollen palm, and said calmly, "Come over and be my mount or die." The Wuji divine prince was a golden lion, so Ningyu couldn't bear to kill him just like that. Besides, it wouldn't be easy for Ningyu to kill the Wuji divine prince even if he wanted to. In terms of raw power, the Wuji divine prince wasn't weaker than him at all. In terms of toughness, the Wuji divine prince was almost on par with him. The reason why he had the upper hand in the fight just now was that he had secretly used a bit of Dao power. Even the Wuji divine prince didn't notice it. Otherwise, how could he have one? Ningyu's current plan was very simple. He wanted to infuriate the limitless divine son so that he would be absolutely enraged. That was the only way the Wuji divine prince would lose his mind and use the Dao power to deal with him. Just then, the Hong Mo secretly contacted Ningyu. According to the Hong Mo, the Red Fiend sword was in its peak state and could trap the Dao power. Therefore, killing the Wuji divine prince was not his goal. Making the Wuji divine prince's mount was also not his goal. Ningyu's real goal was to take the Wuji divine prince's Dao power. "I want you to die." As expected, Ningyu's actions successfully angered the Wuji divine prince and made him lose his mind. The Dao power in the Wuji divine prince's body rushed out and rushed towards Ningyu. Good timing. Hong Mo, get ready. Ningyu was a little excited as he looked at the Dao power rushing towards him. He quickly contacted the Hong Mo, "Don't worry. I'll make sure it doesn't return." The Hong Mo sat in the center of the Red Fiend sword and started to control it. After a period of cultivation, the Hong Mo had completely merged with the Red Fiend sword and became the sword spirit of the Red Fiend sword again. Under the Hong Mo's control, the Red Fiend sword could exert 150% of its combat power. Open. Seeing that the great path power of the limitless divine son was about to reach Ningyu, the Red Fiend suddenly shouted. Suddenly, a terrifying suction force came from the Red Fiend sword and surrounded the great path power of the limitless divine son. Oh no! The Wuji divine prince was very smart. He realized something was wrong when the terrifying suction force came from the Red Fiend sword. He quickly wanted to take back the Dao power. Unfortunately, it was too late for the Wuji divine prince to react now. The Red Fiend sword released a few more terrifying suction forces and engulfed the Dao power. No! The divine prince of the Wuji sect roared. His eyes were wide open and bloodshot. He had spent a great deal of effort to cultivate the energy of the great Dao. If Ningyu were to take it away just like that, then his strength would drop by at least half, or even more. The Wuji divine prince could accept the decrease in power, but he could not accept the Dao power being taken away. Whoosh! The Wuji divine prince burned his essence blood and rushed forward, trying to take back the Dao power. Sorry, your Dao power belongs to me now. Ningyu grabbed the Red Fiend sword and injected his Dao power into it. Chapter 1968. Feeling that he had lost contact with the Dao power, the Wuji prince roared and charged at Ningyu like a madman. There were only two ways to increase one's power after reaching the peak of half-heaven immortal level. The first way was to become a heaven immortal. The second way was to cultivate the Tao power or find a way to take someone else's Tao power. The Wuji divine prince thought that he could take Ning Yu's great path power. Who would have thought that his great path power would be taken away by Ning Yu in the end? How could he accept such a psychological difference? You're overestimating yourself. Kneel. Ning Yu used what he had just learned and directly activated the integrated power of the great Tao to suppress the Wuji divine prince. Crack, 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 crack. Under the terrifying pressure of the Tao power, the Wuji prince's four hooves made cracking sounds, and he knelt on the ground, unable to move. The Wuji divine prince, who had lost his Tao power, had lost more than half of his strength. How could he be a match for Ning Yu? The Wuji prince struggled and roared, trying to break free from Ning Yu's suppression. However, he found that he couldn't move no matter how hard he tried. Swish! Ning Yu didn't care how the Wuji prince struggled. He jumped onto the Wuji prince's back. Roar! Sensing Ning Yu sitting on his back, the Wuji divine son instinctively let out a low growl. Behave yourself, or I don't mind having a meal of braised golden lion. Ning Yu slapped the Wuji prince's head and said, Kill me. You can kill me, but you can't humiliate me. The Wuji prince grunted. He was the peerless divine prince of the Heaven Secret sect, but he felt humiliated after falling into Ning Yu's hands. Moreover, Ning Yu's cultivation was only at the perfection stage of the human immortal realm, and there was an entire level of difference between them. Being defeated by Ning Yu not only made him lose face, but it was also the first time in his life that he had been defeated. You could be killed, but not humiliated. Forget it, you idiot. Ning Yu twitched his mouth. Then, a wisp of soul power flew out of his body and forcefully injected into the head of the Wuji divine son. Although he had suppressed the limitless Shensi with the power of the Great Path, Ning Yu knew very well that a person like the limitless Shensi would have a chance to escape if he could not completely control him. Ning Yu did not want to fail miserably. Therefore, he took out his soul and used his soul power to control the Wuji divine son. Puchi! As soon as Ning Yu's soul power entered limitless divine son's head, he spat out a mouthful of blood. This was the first and only time the Wuji divine prince had been controlled by someone else's soul power. If you offend me, don't even think about going to a high-end existential plane in this lifetime. The limitless Shensi shouted angrily and began to threaten Ning Yu. I'm a very special person. I might listen to you if you talk to me nicely, but I have to apologize to you for threatening me. Ning Yu slapped the limitless Shensis, but with his right hand, and shouted at the same time. Go! Swish! Although the limitless Shensi was extremely unwilling, he still dashed out quickly under Ning Yu's threat. After controlling the limitless Shensi to walk around the city of demons, Ning Yu returned to the divine secret hall and jumped down. Not bad. The more Ning Yu looked at the limitless Shensi, the more satisfied he was. Not only was the golden lion's body tough, but it was also very fast. Although the limitless Shensi's power of the Great Path had been taken away, his speed was still much faster than ordinary peak half-step heaven immortals. Run! Seeing that Ning Yu had killed the limitless Shensi in no time, the surrounding martial artists rushed out of the city of demons. Of course, the weakest martial artists who dared to stay in this area were Earth Immortals. But among these martial artists, there was no one from the primordial demon sect, Sacred Divine Palace, or the Demon's Restaurant. The martial artists of these three forces had been killed by the demonic human and the Dark Emperor. Where are you all going? Ning Yu's voice was not loud as he asked faintly. Swish! Hearing Ning Yu's words, the surrounding martial artists stopped in their tracks and looked at Ning Yu awkwardly. A mid-level half-step heaven immortal scratched his head and said to Ning Yu, We have nothing to do with the Divine Secret Sect. We're just here to watch the show. Yes, we're just here to watch the show. The Divine Secret Sect has done a lot of evil things. We'll all applaud you for killing them. It's not just the Divine Secret Sect. The Sacred Divine Palace and Primordial Demon Sect have been abusing themselves in the City of Demons. None of them are good people. In order to survive, the surrounding martial artists began to speak in human language and speak in ghost language. Just a moment ago, they were mocking Ningyu for being defeated. But now, all of them changed their tune and started to praise Ningyu for doing the right thing. Enough nonsense. Human immortals, stand together. Earthen immortals, half-step heavenly immortals, stand together. Ningyu's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice, I have a few questions to ask you. If you can answer them honestly, I might consider sparing your lives. Ningyu wouldn't be nice to the surrounding martial artists. Now, these people were respectful to him. But if he was the one who was defeated, they would definitely kick him when he was down. Ningyu had seen this kind of situation many times, so he took a tough stance. Ask away. We'll definitely tell you everything we know. We'll tell you everything we know. The mid-level half-step heaven immortal who spoke just now said hurriedly. Ningyu glanced at the mid-level half-step heaven immortal who spoke, and he immediately shut his mouth in fear. First question. Do you know where the god's sons of the other forces are? Ningyu raised a finger and asked faintly, including the primordial demon sect, sacred divine palace, demon's restaurant, and the other powerful forces. What Ningyu wanted to know the most was where the god's sons of the other forces were. After all, the limitless god son of heaven's secret sect had already given him a hard time. If the god's sons of the other forces came together, even he would have to avoid them. I know. I heard the primordial demon sect's whispers just now. The experts of the primordial demon sect and sacred divine palace will probably reach the city of demons in a day, while the godson of the demon's restaurant will reach the city of demons in 3 days. The mid-level half-step heaven immortal answered. Ningyu pondered for a moment and asked again, second question. Why did you gather in the city of demons instead of directly entering the myriad demons' ridge? The seal of the myriad demons' ridge will loosen completely in 7 days. Only then can we enter. Now, even heaven immortals can't break the seal. Chapter 1969. All right. Ningyu slapped his thigh when he heard the words of a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. He had been too careless. Zhao Rui was still trapped in the prophecy hall, but he was interrogating the martial artists around him. Come out. Ningyu opened the storage ring and let Zhao Hang out. Sister. Zhao Hang rushed to the prophecy hall as soon as he came out. Zhao Hang was very familiar with Zhao Rui's aura. He had been worried about Zhao Rui's safety when he was trapped in the storage ring by Ningyu. Now that he was out of the storage ring, he naturally had to check on Zhao Rui. Wait, let the limitless divine sun bring Zhao Rui out. Ningyu waved at Zhao Hang and kicked the limitless divine sun's butt, sending him to the prophecy hall. The array formation and light pillar that trapped Zhao Rui in the prophecy hall were something that even a human demon couldn't do, let alone Zhao Hang. Not only would Zhao Hang not be of any help, but he would also make things worse. Roar! The limitless divine sun let out a low growl after being kicked in the butt by Ningyu. However, the limitless divine sun's body was already under Ningyu's control. His life was completely in Ningyu's hands. Therefore, he could only enter the prophecy hall obediently. The limitless divine sun knew very well that if he didn't bring Zhao Rui out, he would instantly vanish into thin air with a single use of Ningyu's soul power. Don't worry, your sister will be fine. Seeing Zhao Hang's worried expression, Ningyu patted him on the shoulder and said, The Wuji Divine Sun is from the Heaven Secrets sect. He's under my control, so he won't dare to do anything. Swoosh! Right at this moment, a completely golden lion suddenly rushed out from the Heavenly Fate Hall. On its back was a young and beautiful woman, Zhao Rui. The lady was none other than Zhao Rui. Swoosh! Zhao Hang rushed out and pulled Zhao Rui down from the limitless divine sun's back. Here, eat it. Zhao Hang took out the 5-finger holy pellet that Ningyu had given him last time and gave it to Zhao Rui, instructing her to swallow it as soon as possible. All right. Zhao Rui did not argue with Zhao Hang. She took the 5-finger saint pill and popped it in her mouth. Buzz! As the 5-finger saint pill entered her stomach, Zhao Rui's entire body let out a buzzing sound. Furthermore, her aura began to rapidly increase. In the beginning, Zhao Rui's cultivation was only at the intermediate saint realm. However, after consuming the five-finger saint pill, her cultivation rose to the great perfection saint realm in the blink of an eye. Bang! A muffled sound rang out, and Zhao Rui's cultivation base advanced once more, reaching the early stage, human immortal stage. Rumble. Without a doubt, after Zhao Rui advanced to the early worldly immortal stage, a large number of tribulation clouds appeared above her head. Human immortal tribulation. Follow me. The sudden change caught Ningyu by surprise. There were many martial artists in the City of Demons. It was clearly irrational for Zhao Rui to undergo the tribulation there. Ningyu grabbed Zhao Rui's shoulder and leaped onto the back of the limitless divine sun, rushing out of the City of Demons. Zhao Heng and the others followed closely behind Ningyu. Whoosh! The martial artist in front of the heavenly secret hall heaved a sigh of relief a long time after Ningyu had left. To be honest, Ningyu put too much pressure on them. Just the boldness of having the limitless divine sun as a mount was enough to make everyone exclaim. Let's leave for the City of Demons as soon as possible. That's right. If Ningyu comes back, we will be in deep trouble. Don't worry. The peerless divine sons of the sacred divine palace and the primordial demon sect will not let Ningyu off. The peerless divine sons of the sacred divine palace and the primordial demon sect are on par with the limitless divine sun. Even the limitless divine sun was captured by Ningyu as a mount. Will the peerless divine sons of the sacred divine palace and the primordial demon sect be a match for Ningyu? Let's wait and see. Swoosh! Ningyu did not know about the discussion in front of the heavenly secret hall. He had already rushed out of the City of Demons with Zhao Rui and stopped in a forest not far away from the City of Demons. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu stopped, the tribulation clouds above his head let out a rumbling sound. Ningyu hurriedly flashed towards the distance when he saw this. Ningyu did not want to get involved in Zhao Rui's human immortal tribulation. He was a perfected human immortal and was only one step away from becoming an earth immortal. Before he was ready, Ningyu did not want to break through to the earth immortal realm. Limitless divine sun. Do you know who Zhao Rui is? Ningyu took a few steps back and asked the limitless divine sun, why did the heavenly secret sect capture Zhao Rui? I still don't know Zhao Rui's real identity. The divine son of the Wuji sect replied. The reason why the heaven secret sect captured her is that the demon spirit realm experts think highly of her. The limitless divine sun continued. Zhao Heng is Zhao Rui's brother. You should know who Zhao Rui is, right? I don't know either. Zhao Heng said anxiously, when I was in the demonic spirit realm, someone suddenly took my sister away and said that they wanted to take her to cultivate. I tried my best to save her and arrange a safe place for her. I asked someone to bring my sister to the City of Demons some time ago. Who would have thought that she would end up in the hands of the heavenly secret sect? Rumble. As soon as Zhao Heng finished speaking, a tribulation cloud as thick as a person's waist appeared in the distant sky and smashed toward Zhao Rui. The power of this tribulation cloud should be around the mid-stage human immortal level. Looking at the tribulation cloud descending from the sky, Ningyu's expression was slightly solemn. The first tribulation cloud was already around the mid-stage human immortal level. One could imagine that the following tribulation clouds would at least be at the perfected human immortal level. This is nothing. If I'm not wrong, the power of the next few tribulation clouds should be around the early stage or mid-stage earth immortal level. The limitless divine sun sneered. Bang! Ningyu raised his right leg and kicked the limitless divine sun's butt. Tell me honestly, what else do you know? Ningyu took out the red demon sword and placed it on the limitless divine sun's neck. He said coldly, otherwise I'll cut off your head. I'll talk. Zhao Rui has a 1 in a million spirit body. Her cultivation speed is very fast. She's the fastest among all the people I know, the Wuji divine prince said quickly. So, she's the fastest among all the people you know. Ningyu frowned. He couldn't believe it. The limitless divine son was the peerless divine son of the heavenly secret sect. The people he came into contact with were all extremely talented. Now that he said that Zhao Rui's cultivation speed was much faster than the people he knew, it was obvious that Zhao Rui had a 1 in a million spirit body. Her ranking on the myriad race spirit body roll should be very high, even higher than his God of War body. Zhao Rui has a spirit body. Chapter 1970. Who is it? The words that entered his ears caused Ningyu's expression to change as he cried out in a deep voice. Since Ningyu's attention was focused on Zhao Rui, he did not pay much attention to the situation around him. But even so, an expert who could avoid his perception would definitely not be too weak. He was now a perfected human immortal with 2 strands of Tao force. He could easily crush the Wuji divine son of God if he were to fight him again. Under such circumstances, someone could evade his perception. One had to admit that the person's concealment ability was superb. Buzz. Buzz. Not long after Ningyu's voice died away, a buzzing sound was heard in the void around him. Then, several warriors appeared. Hiss. Looking at the sudden appearance of a few cultivators, Ningyu and the others appeared relatively calm, but Zhao Heng could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Upper-class half-step heaven immortal, these warriors had the same cultivation level. They were all upper-class half-step heaven immortals. Haha, you come out too. Otherwise, I'll kill them like dogs. Ningyu smiled and said into the void, a few mere peak-level half-step heaven immortals are nothing in my eyes. Crack! In an instant, the void exploded, and 3 black-robed martial artists appeared. Peak half-step heaven immortals, just as Ningyu said. The cultivation base of these 3 warriors were all at the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm. Your cultivation base is only at the peak human immortal stage. Can't we 3 peak half-step heavenly immortals kill you? One of them, a peak stage half-step heaven immortal with a scar on his face, took a step forward, snorted coldly at Ningyu, and said, I advise you to surrender obediently and hand over Zhao Rui. Otherwise, we'll make you regret being born into this world. Ha ha ha. Ningyu looked like he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed. Then, he said coldly, come out. I can kill these 3 nobodies with a flip of my hand. Arrogant. Ignorant. You overestimate yourself. After hearing Ningyu's words, the 3 peak stage half-step heaven immortals gnashed their teeth in anger. They looked at each other, then rose from the ground and charged at Ningyu at a terrifying speed. Rumble. 3 peak half-step heavenly immortals attacked at the same time. This kind of force was enough to cause the void to tremble and the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. Step back. However, facing the 3 peak half-step heaven immortals who were charging at him, Ningyu took a step forward and blocked Zhao Heng behind him. Subsequently, Ningyu abruptly brandished the red demon sword. With a flick of his wrist, he slashed out 3 times in succession. Xiao xiao xiao. 3 ordinary-looking sword beams flew out, each aimed at a peak-level half-step heavenly immortal. Insignificant skill. The peak-level half-step heaven immortal with a scar on his face sneered, the corners of his mouth curling up slightly. He did not think much of the sword beam that Ningyu unleashed. They had just rushed over from the demon spirit realm, so they had no idea what Ningyu had done in the city of demons. If they knew that Ningyu had defeated the peerless divine prince of the heavenly secret sect, they would not have been as arrogant as they were now. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Ningyu slashed out a sword beam that landed right on the neck of the peak-level half-step heaven immortal with a scar on his face. There was no doubt that Ningyu's sword beam, which contained the power of the great Tao, had easily severed the neck of the peak-level half-step heaven immortal. Oh no! The other 2 peak-level half-step heaven immortals were shocked when they saw that Ningyu had defeated the peak-level half-step heaven immortal in an instant. Even his nascent soul could not escape. Divine Prince of Destruction, save us. Boom! The 2 peak-level half-step heavenly immortals had only just spoken up when a terrifying beam of chilling light charged out from the sky towards Ningyu. Clearly, The one who had unleashed this cold light was none other than the divine prince of destruction. Let them go or die. The divine prince of destruction's words were concise and to the point. Moreover, a wave of the great Tao shot out from the divine prince of destruction's body and rushed towards Ningyu together with the cold light. Wouldn't I lose face if I let them go, just because you asked me to? Ningyu glanced at the divine prince of destruction who was rushing towards him, then waved the red demon sword in his hand again and slashed out 2 more sword beams. Crack! Crack! The 2 sword beams, together with the previous 2 sword beams, slashed the heads of the 2 peak-level half-step Heaven Immortals. A crisp sound rang out. The 2 peak-level half-step Heaven Immortals fell to the ground at the same time. Not even their nascent souls could escape. Kid, you're done for. No one in this world can save you. The divine prince of destruction roared and was extremely angry. After all, he was the divine prince of a large territory, which was enough to rank in the top 5 on the longevity roll in his territory. Ever since he had descended from a high-level plane, he had been the absolute overlord in the demon spirit realm and had already unified the entire realm. He had thought that he would be able to wipe out everything in the Demon Ridge with a few overlords. Who would have thought that he would suffer heavy casualties in the first battle? 3 peak-level half-step Heaven Immortals were killed at the same time. The divine prince of destruction had to avenge himself. I don't need anyone to save me. You, on the other hand, need to think about whether you want to surrender or die. After killing the 2 peak-level half-step Heaven Immortals, Ningyu turned to look at the divine prince of destruction and said, "If you had attacked me 2 hours ago, I might not have been able to kill you. But now, killing you is as easy as flipping my hand." In fact, Ningyu was right. 2 hours ago, he only had the power of a Grand Tao, and his strength was on par with the divine prince of the Wuji sect. The divine prince of destruction's strength was also on par with the divine prince of the Wuji sect. If the divine prince of destruction had attacked Ningyu 2 hours ago, Ningyu would at most be on par with him. But now, the power of a Grand Tao that Ningyu had was much stronger than that of the divine prince of destruction. It would be a piece of cake for him to kill the divine prince of destruction. Ningyu put away the red demon sword and waved his wrist, throwing out the power of a Grand Tao. Whoosh! In a blink of an eye, the 2 powers of a Grand Tao collided. The result was obvious. Ningyu's power of a Grand Tao was obviously much thicker and more powerful than that of the divine prince of destruction. Under such circumstances, the divine prince of destruction's power of a Grand Tao didn't even last for a second before he was forced to flee. Where are you going? Just be obedient and let me devour you. Ningyu used his soul power to control the power of a Grand Tao, surrounding the divine prince of destruction's power of a Grand Tao, and started devouring it crazily. Kid, you're asking for it. Seeing that Ningyu had controlled his power of a Grand Tao, the divine prince of destruction shouted, "Go and fight with him." Ningyu kicked the butt of the divine prince of the Wuji sect and sent him to the divine prince of destruction. The divine prince of destruction didn't have the power of a Grand Tao, so his strength was on par with the divine prince of the Wuji sect. Therefore, letting the divine prince of the Wuji sect deal with the divine prince of destruction was the wisest choice. At the very least, it will buy enough time for Ningyu to devour. As long as the divine prince of destruction's power of a Grand Tao could be devoured, Ningyu's strength would increase by 1/3. Chapter 1971. I'm going to turn all of you into ashes. The Destruction Divine Prince's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. His strength had dropped by at least half after losing control of the Grand Tao power. If he couldn't take back the Grand Tao power, he would gain nothing from this trip to the Myriad Demon's Ridge. It was even possible that he would be killed by Ningyu, who was at the perfected human immortal realm. Therefore, the Destruction Divine Prince had to take back the Grand Tao power, no matter what. If you want to grind our bones and scatter our ashes, you need to have the ability to do so. The Limitless Divine Prince stomped on the ground and charged at the Destruction Divine Prince. The Limitless Divine Prince had been very sullen ever since his Grand Tao power was controlled by Ningyu. Ningyu would kick his butt and take it out on him if he didn't get what he wanted. How could the limitless divine prince let go of a punching bag now? Boom! The limitless divine prince and the destruction divine prince were fighting in the blink of an eye. Even though the limitless divine prince and the destruction divine prince's grand Dao power had been taken away by Ningyu, their combat strength was still very strong. Ordinary peak half-step heaven immortals were no match for them. The aftershocks from their exchange were enough to cause the surrounding martial practitioners to feel fearful. Let's go. Seeing the destruction divine prince and the limitless divine prince fighting, the surrounding upper-class half-step heaven immortals all rushed at the human demon. Oh no, retreat. The human demon hadn't recovered to the peak half-step heaven immortal level yet, so it was very difficult for him to deal with so many upper-class half-step heaven immortals. However, the human demon knew his limits. He stomped on the ground and quickly retreated. With Ningyu around, there was no need for him to do anything. Even if Ningyu didn't use the Grand Dao power, killing upper-class half-step heaven immortals was still a piece of cake. Sigh, there's so many people who aren't afraid of death. Looking at the high-grade half-step heavenly immortals charging towards the human demon, the Dark Sovereign, and the others, Ningyu sighed helplessly. Next, he kept the Grand Dao powers into his storage ring, turned around, and charged out. Ningyu brandished the red demon sword in his hand repeatedly, and he instantly slashed out several sword auras. Against a high-grade half-step heavenly immortal, Ningyu did not need to utilize Grand Dao powers. Pu. The result was within everyone's expectations. In the face of the several sword beams unleashed by Ningyu, the upper-grade half-step heaven immortals who were charging at the human fiend scattered in all directions. However, it was already too late for them to escape. After coughing out several mouthfuls of blood, the high-grade half-step heavenly immortals fell to the ground like dead dogs. Since Ningyu had decided to attack, he would not hold back. He flicked his wrist and unleashed several sword lights. The main purpose of these sword beams was to destroy the nascent divinity of upper-tier half-step heaven immortals. Ningyu, leave them to me. At that moment, the red demon's voice reached Ningyu's ears. Ningyu was slightly startled at first. Then he nodded and said, "All right, I'll leave their nascent divinities to you." Ningyu was well aware that the red demon could devour nascent divinities. Therefore, Ningyu decided to let the red demon deal with these nascent divinities so that he could improve his strength. As for himself, he could continue devouring the Grand Dao powers and try to find a way to fuse the three Grand Dao powers together. Fuse! Ningyu's powerful soul force surged out and began to fuse the three Grand Dao powers. Roar! While Ningyu was trying to find a way to fuse the Grand Dao powers, the battle between the Wuji Divine Sun and the Destruction Divine Sun had reached its climax. Their strength was almost on par. Even if they fought with their lives on the line, it would be impossible to determine the winner in a short time. Therefore, Ningyu only glanced at them and then ignored them. Anyway, the Wuji Divine Sun was under his control. With the Wuji Divine Sun fighting the Destruction Divine Sun, the Destruction Divine Sun wouldn't be able to escape. Boom! Everything seemed to be going in the right direction. However, after a while, there was an earth-shattering sound that reached Ningyu's ears. Ningyu's expression changed slightly. Apparently, a tribulation cloud as thick as a person's waist descended from the sky and hit Zhao Rui hard. Perfected human immortal level. The power of this tribulation cloud was equivalent to a full force attack from a perfected human immortal level warrior. Ningyu remembered clearly that this tribulation cloud was the fifth tribulation cloud of Zhao Rui's human immortal level. The power of the fifth tribulation cloud was already at the perfected human immortal level. One could imagine that if Zhao Rui had 9 tribulation clouds, the power of the 9 tribulation cloud would at least reach the mid-stage Earth immortal level or even the late-stage Earth immortal level. Crack! However, what happened next shocked Ningyu. Zhao Rui opened her mouth and swallowed the tribulation cloud of the perfected human immortal level. F*CK. The sudden change made Ningyu's mouth slightly open, and he couldn't help but curse. It was understandable that the red demon sword could swallow the tribulation cloud. After all, it was a sacred flying sword. But why could Zhao Rui swallow the tribulation cloud? Ningyu couldn't figure it out. Rumble. However, what Ningyu couldn't figure out was yet to come. As soon as Zhao Rui swallowed the tribulation cloud of the perfected human immortal level, a few more tribulation clouds descended from the sky. Mid-stage Earth immortal level. The power of these tribulation clouds had reached the terrifying mid-stage Earth immortal level. The solitary spirit body is so terrifying. Ningyu had also heard of the solitary spirit body, but he didn't know that it was so terrifying that it could swallow the tribulation clouds alive. By now, Ningyu had vaguely figured out what was going on. No wonder the Heaven's Secret Sect, Sacred Divine Palace, Primordial Demon, and even the experts from the demon spirit realm were eyeing Zhao Rui. After all, a person who could swallow the tribulation clouds alive had a high research value. Ningyu, will my sister be all right? Seeing the tribulation clouds smashing towards Zhao Rui one after another, Zhao Heng looked worried and hurriedly asked Ningyu. Ningyu took a deep breath and said, "Your sister has the solitary spirit body. She should be able to withstand the impact of these tribulation clouds." Ningyu didn't say anything definite. After all, he didn't know much about the solitary spirit body. He only knew that the solitary spirit body could cultivate very quickly. "Ningyu, I want to ask you for help." Zhao Heng looked at Ningyu and suddenly took out a blood-red elixir and said, "Zhao Rui has carried this elixir with her since she was young. If she can't withstand the thunder tribulation, I need your help." "My help?" Ningyu frowned slightly. Obviously, he knew what Zhao Heng meant. Zhao Heng wanted him to rush into the tribulation clouds and help Zhao Rui go through the thunder tribulation together. "I know that doing this might put you in a difficult position, but I really have no other choice. Among all the people I know, your cultivation is the strongest. You are also the most likely to help my sister withstand the lightning tribulation," said the old man. Zhao Heng said. Zhao Heng knew that Ningyu had helped the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu withstand the thunder tribulation. That was why he was willing to ask Ningyu for help. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have asked Ningyu to take the risk. After all, Ningyu had already helped him a lot. It wouldn't be right for him to ask for more. Solitary spirit pill. It's the solitary spirit pill. Before Ningyu could answer Zhao Heng, the destruction godson opened his eyes wide and let out a furious roar. Chapter 1972. Oomph. You must have a death wish. Ningyu snorted when he saw the destruction divine sun charge at Zhao Heng. His aura suddenly burst forth. Although Ningyu was chatting with Zhao Heng, part of his attention was on Zhao Rui, who was in midair, and the other part was on the destruction divine sun, who was fighting the limitless divine sun. Now that the destruction divine sun had suddenly attacked and wanted to snatch the single spirit pill, Ningyu naturally could not escape his senses. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu took out the red demon sword and injected his essence chi into it. Then, he slashed with the sword. Whoosh! A terrifying sword aura separated from the red demon sword and slashed at the destruction divine sun at an extremely frightening speed. Although Ningyu did not use the power of a great path in this attack, it was still not a problem for him to deal with a warrior like the destruction divine sun. After all, the destruction divine sun no longer had the power of a great path. His overall combat power had decreased several times. Furthermore, the destruction divine sun had been fighting the limitless divine sun for a long time. He was currently in a weakened state, and his strength was not at its peak. Oh no! The destruction divine sun's expression changed drastically when he saw Ningyu slash out a sword aura. He hurriedly tried to dodge. However, it was already too late for the destruction divine sun to dodge. Crack! The sword aura that Ningyu slashed out was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it reached the destruction divine sun's neck. At the critical moment, the destruction divine sun tilted his head slightly and raised his right arm in front of him. Crack! After a crisp sound, An arm fell from the destruction divine son's body and fell to the ground. Then a hysterical roar came from the mouth of the destruction divine son. Ningyu, you will die a horrible death. The destruction divine son grabbed the arm on the ground and put on his shoulder. Then he said coldly, even if I die, I will drag someone down with me. You want to drag someone down with you? Isn't he a little too arrogant? Ningyu stomped on the ground and shouted in a deep voice, I originally gave you a chance to live, but you didn't know how to cherish it. In that case, I can only apologize to you. The moment the word yes fell, Ningyu stomped on the ground and dashed out. This time, Ningyu did not intend to hold back. He wanted to kill the divine son of destruction. A powerful martial artist like the divine son of destruction definitely had a terrifying backer in a high-level plane. Ningyu didn't want him to contact the higher-level plane's backer and bring unnecessary trouble to himself. Therefore, Ningyu only had one thought, which was to kill the son of God of destruction and take his memories. Ha ha ha. However, as soon as Ningyu arrived in front of God's son of destruction, God's son of destruction threw his head back and laughed. Then his body expanded. Not good. Seeing what the divine son of destruction was doing, Ningyu's face became extremely serious. Although the divine son of destruction didn't have the power of the grand path, his foundation was still there. If he really self-destructed here, it would definitely affect Zhao Rui, who was going through the tribulation in midair. Although Ningyu wasn't afraid of the divine son of destruction's self-destruction, Zhao Rui was. Let's attack together. In a moment of desperation, Ningyu shouted at the human demon and the divine son of Wuji next to him. Moreover, Ningyu directly used the power of the grand path that hadn't been completely integrated yet. As long as they could stop the divine son of destruction from self-destructing, everything would be worth it. I was tricked. Seeing that Ningyu and the others were facing a formidable enemy, the divine son of destruction chuckled. Then his body suddenly went into the void. At the same time, a thin ray of cold light flowed out of his body. The target of this cold light wasn't Ningyu, the human demon, or the divine son of Wuji. It was Zhao Hang, who was standing next to him. To be more precise, it was the single spirit pill in Zhao Hang's hand. Ever since the divine son of destruction saw Zhao Hang take out the single spirit pill, he had a perfect plan. First, he would use self-destruction to attract the attention of Ningyu and the human demon. Then, he would use his secret art to leave his body and steal the single spirit pill. The single spirit pill was good stuff. If he could get the single spirit pill by destroying his body, then the power of the grand path that he had lost this time wouldn't be a problem anymore. Everything seemed to be going in the right direction. Boom. However, something that terrified the divine son of destruction suddenly happened. An extremely huge tribulation cloud suddenly descended from the sky and blasted towards Zhao Rui fiercely. Originally, the tribulation cloud wouldn't have affected the divine son of destruction. However, the moment the tribulation cloud appeared, the single spirit pill in Zhao Hang's hand suddenly went out of control and flew towards Zhao Rui in midair. Come back. The divine son of destruction's expression changed drastically. His face was full of fear. If the single spirit pill entered Zhao Rui's tribulation cloud, then even if his cultivation reached the sky immortal realm, he wouldn't be able to get the single spirit pill. In a hurry, the divine son of destruction's essence spirit sped up again and rushed towards the single spirit pill. The divine son of destruction's plan was very simple. He wanted to get the single spirit pill before it entered the range of Zhao Rui's tribulation cloud. However, the ideal was plentiful, but the reality was harsh. Arg! The divine son of destruction screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Chi! Chi! At this moment, the divine son of destruction's essence spirit actually started to burn. Without a doubt, the divine son of destruction had not calculated the distance well and had barged into Zhao Rui's tribulation cloud. Whoosh! The divine son of destruction didn't even last a second in the tribulation cloud before his body turned into nothingness and disappeared. As soon as the divine son of destruction's essence, spirit, disappeared, his inflated body in the distance immediately shriveled up. SSS. The moment the divine son of destruction's essence, spirit, rushed out of his body and entered Zhao Rui's tribulation cloud, everything happened in the blink of an eye. Ning Yu and the human demon shifted their attention to the tribulation cloud that was attacking Zhao Rui in the air. Ning Yu and the others sucked in a breath of cold air as soon as they saw what was inside. The peak of the earth-level deity level. Without a doubt, the power of Zhao Rui's tribulation cloud had reached the peak of the earth-level deity level. Ning Yu wasn't a fool. He knew that this tribulation cloud wasn't the end. In other words, there would be at least a few more tribulation cloud coming down from the sky. The power of this tribulation cloud had already reached the peak of the earth-level deity level. One could imagine that the power of the following tribulation clouds would at least be that of a half-step heaven immortal. Whoosh! Zhao Hang's reaction was more exaggerated than Ning Yu's. His mouth was slightly open and his face was full of fear. However, Zhao Hang didn't stand where he was. Instead, he rushed towards the tribulation cloud with all his might, trying to block this terrifying tribulation cloud for Zhao Rui. Wait, do you want to die? Ning Yu grabbed Zhao Hang's shoulder and said in a deep voice, although Zhao Rui looks weak, she should have no problem blocking this tribulation cloud. After some thought, Ning Yu continued, besides, since the divine son of destruction values the soul spirit pill so much, it means that the soul spirit pill is very... Before Ning Yu could finish his sentence, the soul spirit pill in the air turned into powder and entered Zhao Rui's body through her skin. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura was emitted from Zhao Rui's body. Peak of the human immortal level. Chapter 1973. The solitary spirit pill is so terrifying. Ning Yu's face darkened when he sensed that Zhao Rui's aura had increased from the sage realm to the perfect realm of the human immortal realm. Initially, Ning Yu thought that the solitary spirit pill would not be this terrifying, even though it was terrifying. However, the current situation had far exceeded Ning Yu's expectations. If he was not mistaken, the solitary spirit pill's grade should be on par with the five-finger divine pill, or even higher. After all, the solitary spirit pill was able to increase Zhao Rui's cultivation by a huge level before the Thunder Tribulation was over. This was enough to prove the uniqueness of the solitary spirit pill. Rumble. However, what surprised Ning Yu even more was yet to happen. A terrifying sound suddenly came from Zhao Rui's body. Then, an extremely terrifying aura shot up into the sky, with Zhao Rui at the center. What? The sudden change made Ning Yu and the others turn pale. The reason why Ning Yu and the others were so shocked was because Zhao Rui's aura had increased from the perfect realm of the human immortal realm to the earth immortal realm. The solitary spirit pill had increased Zhao Rui's cultivation from the perfect realm of the sage realm to the earth immortal realm. However, what made Ning Yu and the others even more shocked was that the tribulation cloud above Zhao Rui's head had suddenly stopped. The tribulation cloud had stopped, which meant that Zhao Rui had successfully passed the tribulation of the human immortal realm. However, Zhao Rui was now in the earth immortal realm, so her tribulation of the human immortal realm was not the end. Rumble. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the black clouds pressed down on them. It was obvious that Zhao Rui's tribulation of the earth immortal realm was about to descend. Ning Yu and the others opened their mouths slightly when they saw the dark tribulation cloud in the sky. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Could a tribulation be passed like this? Halfway through the tribulation of the human immortal realm, her cultivation had increased to the earth immortal realm, and then she went on to pass the tribulation of the earth immortal realm. It was Ning Yu's first time witnessing such a situation. Of course, it was not only Ning Yu's first time witnessing it. It was also the first time that he had seen it. What now? Human Demon looked at the dark tribulation clouds in the sky, then looked at Ning Yu and said, "How about we move back a bit more?" The reason why the demonic cultivator would say something like that was because the human immortal tribulation and the earthly immortal tribulation were two completely different concepts. The great tribulation of the human immortal realm covered a radius of a few miles. However, the earthly immortal tribulation would cover at least a radius of a few dozen miles. If nothing went wrong, Zhao Rui's earthly immortal tribulation would definitely spread outside. Once the tribulation cloud spread, Ningyu and the others would definitely be within the range of the tribulation clouds. All of you retreat for now. I'll stay here and bring up the rear. Ningyu thought for a moment and said in a deep voice. Although Zhao Rui had absorbed the singular spirit pill and her cultivation had risen to the earth immortal stage, she still felt a little uneasy. After all, even the current him did not dare to say that he could pass the earthly immortal tribulation with 100% certainty. All right, let's retreat for now. The demonic cultivator and the Dark Emperor did not stand on ceremony with Ningyu. They stepped on the ground and retreated hastily. After all, Ningyu had 3 grand Dao energies on him. He had the strength to rush into the tribulation clouds and help Zhao Rui block the lightning tribulation. As for them staying behind, not only would they not be of any help, they would only make things worse. Rumble. Not long after the demonic cultivator and the others retreated, a tribulation cloud as thick as a waist appeared above Zhao Rui's head. Mid-earth immortal stage. The power of this tribulation cloud was around the mid-earth immortal stage. Normally, the power of the first tribulation cloud would be around the early earth immortal stage. However, the power of Zhao Rui's first tribulation cloud was already at the mid-earth immortal stage. This was enough to prove that this earthly immortal tribulation would be very difficult for her. Eat it. In midair, Zhao Rui opened her mouth and suddenly swallowed the tribulation cloud of the mid-earth immortal stage. Ningyu was not surprised to see Zhao Rui swallowing the tribulation cloud of the mid-earth immortal stage. Instead, he felt that it was only natural. After all, Zhao Rui had already swallowed a terrifying tribulation cloud before. This meant that she had the ability to swallow other tribulation clouds. Rumble. Just as Zhao Rui swallowed the tribulation cloud in the sky, another tribulation cloud descended from the sky. Late Earth immortal stage. The power of the second tribulation cloud had reached the horrifying late Earth immortal stage. Seeing this tribulation cloud, Ningyu's face turned very solemn. Ningyu was not particularly surprised that Zhao Rui had swallowed the tribulation cloud of the mid-Earth immortal stage. However, the power of the tribulation cloud of the late Earth immortal stage and the mid-Earth immortal stage was very different. I wonder if Zhao Rui can hold on. Ningyu's eyes were fixed on Zhao Rui in midair. As long as Zhao Rui showed any signs of weakness, he would rush into the tribulation cloud and help her resist the tribulation cloud. Crack! Crack! Because of his worry, Ningyu clenched his fists tightly, producing a cracking sound. Poochie! However, Ningyu was obviously too worried. Zhao Rui opened her mouth and swallowed the tribulation cloud once again. Last time, Zhao Rui swallowed the tribulation cloud of the mid-Earth immortal stage. This time, she swallowed the tribulation cloud of the late Earth immortal stage. Rumble. Just as Zhao Rui swallowed the tribulation cloud of the late Earth immortal stage, several rumbling sounds came from the sky. Without a doubt, the power of this tribulation cloud had reached the horrifying peak of the Earth immortal stage. Hiss! Looking at the sudden appearance of the tribulation cloud of the peak of the Earth immortal stage, Ningyu's face turned extremely solemn, and he couldn't help but gasp. Bang! At this moment, a muffled sound was heard from Zhao Rui's body. Mid-Earth immortal stage. Zhao Rui's cultivation had actually reached the mid-Earth immortal stage. Could it be that the effect of the singular spirit pill hasn't ended yet? Ningyu was shocked and felt that it was unbelievable. As it turned out, Ningyu had thought too much. Poochie. Zhao Rui's cultivation had just reached the mid-earth immortal stage when she opened her mouth and spurted out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, Zhao Rui's chi dropped from the mid-earth immortal stage to the early earth immortal stage, and it was still dropping. Shit! Feeling the drop of Zhao Rui's chi, Ning Yu's face changed dramatically. He immediately stomped on the ground and dashed out. The drop of Zhao Rui's chi meant that she could no longer resist the tribulation cloud of the peak of the earth immortal stage. Under such circumstances, only Ning Yu could help her. Open. Ning Yu waved the red devil sword in his hand continuously and slashed out 3 rays of sword radiance in an instant. Puchi, Puchi, Puchi. The 3 rays of sword radiance that Ning Yu slashed out hit the 3 tribulation clouds precisely. Without a doubt, the 3 tribulation clouds dissipated at the same time. This is, after blocking the 3 tribulation clouds for Zhao Rui. Ning Yu's eyes widened as he stared at the golden tribulation cloud that appeared in the sky. This golden tribulation cloud made Ning Yu's heart palpitate. Great Tao energy. There was no other reason, but because in this golden tribulation cloud, Ning Yu felt the existence of 3 great Tao energy. There were 3 great Tao energy in one tribulation cloud. Ning Yu didn't even dare to imagine such a terrifying situation. After all, the weakest heaven immortal only had 10 great Tao energy in his body. Chapter 1974. Damn it! Ning Yu cursed under his breath. His face was extremely solemn. He only had 3 great path powers in his body at the moment, and they had not been completely merged yet. Their power was not particularly strong. However, there were 3 great path powers in the golden tribulation cloud in front of him. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu did not dare to say that he could withstand the golden tribulation cloud with 100% certainty. Although he was worried, Ning Yu did not feel hopeless because of this. On the contrary, Ning Yu was slightly excited. If he could destroy the golden tribulation cloud, he would have a chance to devour the 3 great path powers in it. He now had 3 great path powers in his body. If he could devour the 3 great path powers in the golden tribulation cloud, he would have 6 great path powers in his body. Peak experts like the Wuji Divine Sun and the Shattering Divine Sun only had 1 great path powers in their bodies. If Ning Yu could have 6 great path powers, he would probably be able to do whatever he wanted in the 10,000 Demons Ridge. Come out. At the critical moment, Ning Yu moved his mind and directly used the great path powers in his body. Strictly speaking, the great path powers in Ning Yu's body were not 3, but 1.5. This was because he had already merged the 2 great path powers together. If Zhao Rui had not needed his help during the Tribulation Transcendence, the 3 great path powers would have been completely merged by now. Go! Ning Yu flicked his wrist and threw out 1.5 great path powers, which rushed towards the golden tribulation cloud at an extremely shocking speed. The power of the great path powers were not the same. Take the great path powers in Ning Yu's body, for example. Because he had merged 2 great path powers together, one of his great path powers was much stronger than ordinary great path powers. Kaboom! Ning Yu's power of the great path had just collided with the golden tribulation cloud when a terrifying sound rang out. Great! Hearing the sound, Ning Yu couldn't help but cry out. He didn't know if the golden tribulation cloud had any restrictions. Although it had 3 powers of the great path in its body, only one of them rushed out to fight with Ning Yu. At this time, Ning Yu would naturally have the upper hand. Swoosh! However, before Ning Yu could rejoice for too long, the golden tribulation cloud turned around and charged toward Zhao Rui. Not good, Zhao Rui quickly. Holy shit! When Ning Yu saw the golden tribulation cloud rushing toward Zhao Rui, he wanted to warn her, but he couldn't help but curse halfway through. The reason was that Zhao Rui actually opened her mouth and wanted to swallow the golden tribulation cloud. It was one thing for him to devour ordinary tribulation clouds, but this golden tribulation cloud had 2 powers of the great Tao within it. Swallowing the power of the great Tao, Even the current Ning, you did not dare to do so. Buzz. As soon as the two powers of the great Tao arrived in front of Zhao Rui, golden light flashed around her body. The golden light spread out and firmly wrapped around the two powers of the great Tao, forcing them into Zhao Rui's mouth. Gulp. Seeing Zhao Rui swallow the two powers of the great Tao, Ningyu opened his mouth slightly and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. That was the powers of the great Tao. Was it swallowed by Zhao Rui, just like that? Ningyu couldn't believe it and was very shocked. Swoosh! As soon as Zhao Rui swallowed the two powers of the great Tao, the area returned to peace. Obviously, Zhao Rui's earth immortal tribulation had ended. Boom! At this time, Zhao Rui's aura was also soaring at an extremely terrifying speed. Early stage, Earth Immortal. Middle stage, Earth Immortal. Late stage, Earth Immortal. In just a few seconds, Zhao Rui's aura had actually increased to the late stage Earth Immortal realm. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. Without a doubt, Zhao Rui's aura had increased to the half-step Heaven Immortal realm. Zhao Rui's half-step Heaven Immortal was not the weakest half-step Heaven Immortal, but a peak half-step Heaven Immortal with the powers of the Great Tao. In other words, Zhao Rui's current combat power was a few times stronger than the Destruction Divine Sun and the Infinity Divine Sun. After all, the Destruction Divine Sun and the Infinity Divine Sun only had one Great Tao power, but Zhao Rui had two Great Tao power. Of course, Zhao Rui's strength was still a level lower than Ningyu's. Originally, Ningyu had 3 Great Tao power, but after the fusion, it became 1.5. However, with the addition of the Great Tao power from the Golden Tribulation Cloud, it meant that Ningyu had a total of 4 Great Tao power before the fusion. Fuse. Ningyu would not let go of such a good opportunity. He started to fuse the Great Tao power. Originally, he had almost fused the 3 Great Tao power together. Now that he exerted force again, the speed was naturally much faster. Drip, drip. Time ticked by. While Ningyu was fusing the Great Tao power, Zhao Rui, the human demon, and the others did not disturb him. Instead, they waited quietly at the side. Whoosh! After about 10 minutes, Ningyu opened his eyes and slowly spat out a mouthful of turbid air. With a flick of his wrist, a Great Tao power appeared on Ningyu's fingertip. After 10 minutes of fusion, Ningyu had fused the 4 Great Tao power together. In other words, one of Ningyu's Great Tao power was equivalent to 4 Great Tao power from other warriors. Swoosh! Seeing that Ningyu had successfully integrated with the power of the Great Path, Zhao Rui stomped on the ground and instantly flew in front of Ningyu. She said, "Thank you for your help this time. I will definitely repay you in the future." "There's no need to repay me. You are Zhao Hang's sister, and I have a good relationship with him. I did not help you to ask for anything." Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Besides that, I've already benefited greatly from your tribulation clouds and obtained a strand of the energy of the Grand Tao. Zhao Hang and I are not blood related," Zhao Rui said solemnly. "After advancing to peak half-step Heaven Immortal, I have awakened the memories of my past life. I come from a powerful force in a high-class plane." Powerful force? Ningyu was slightly surprised. The force Zhao Rui mentioned was definitely much stronger than the Sacred Divine Palace or the Primordial Demon Sect. However, since Zhao Rui did not mention the name of the force, Ningyu naturally would not ask. "Let's return to the City of Demons first. We will go to the Million Demons in 7 days." "Oh no," Ningyu looked around and said. However, before Ningyu could finish his words, his expression changed slightly. "The Divine War Crane and Wu Patian are in trouble. I need to go there as soon as possible." Before the Divine War Crane and Wu Patian left, Ningyu had given them a crystal ball. Ningyu told them that if they were in danger, as long as they crushed the crystal ball, he would know immediately and rush over. Now that Ningyu sensed that the crystal ball had cracked, he naturally had to go over immediately to help. Most importantly, Ningyu could feel that the crystal ball was not too far away from him. If he flew at full speed, it would only take him about 10 to 20 minutes. Swoosh! Then, Ningyu stomped on the ground, and his body turned into an afterimage. He suddenly rushed out with a violent wave of yuan qi. Let's go too. Chapter 1975. At the same time, in a forest not too far away from the city of demons, 7 to 8 martial artists formed a small encirclement. There are only 2 martial artists in the encirclement. If Ningyu was here, he would be able to tell that these 2 martial artists were none other than Wu Patian and Divine Battle Crane, whom he wanted to help. I wonder when Ningyu will come. Wu Patian and the war god Crane stood back to back, and their eyes were filled with despair. Although the 2 of them were in the initial human immortal stage, the 7 to 8 cultivators surrounding them were all in the intermediate human immortal stage. It wasn't easy for Wu Patian and Divine War Crane to hold on until now under the encirclement of intermediate human immortals. A word of advice: surrender as soon as possible. A gray-robed elder stepped forward and looked at Wu Patian and Divine War Crane coldly. Otherwise, you will regret being born into this world. You want us to surrender? In your next life? Wu Patian snorted. Although our cultivation isn't as high as yours, you'll have to pay a price if you want to kill us. Wu Patian and Divine War Crane were natives of the immortal spirit realm, so their combat strength was exceptionally strong. In a one-on-one situation, the gray-robed elder wasn't a match for Wu Patian and Divine War Crane. If it wasn't for the martial artists surrounding Wu Patian and Divine War Crane, they would have broken out of the encirclement long ago and even had the chance to kill a few people. Now, the gray-robed elder wanted Wu Patian and Divine War Crane to surrender with just one sentence. You overestimate yourselves. Kill them. Hearing Wu Potion's arrogant words, the gray-robed elder gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "We can't kill them." The ancient Shinsi said that Wu Patian and Divine War Crane are quite talented. We need to capture them and make them our servants. Just as the gray-robed elder was about to attack, a martial artist with a flat-top haircut beside him said hastily. The reason why the gray-robed elder and Divine War Crane were chasing after Wu Patian and Divine War Crane was because of what the ancient Shinsi said when he passed by the martial domain and Divine War domain. Back then, the ancient god's original words were that the martial domain and the god of war domain were very special. The strongest experts they nurtured would not be too weak in terms of talent and strength. Once the plane barrier was completely loosened, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds, just like a rocket. It was for this reason that they chased after Wu Patian and Divine War Crane. Damn it! The gray-clothed old man clenched his fists and couldn't help but curse inwardly. Aggrieved, extremely aggrieved. The gray-robed elder had nowhere to vent his anger. They can escape death, but they can't escape punishment. No matter what, I have to teach them a lesson today. The gray-robed elder stared at Wu Patian and the war god Crane and said coldly, "Attack together." Voila! As soon as the gray-robed old man's words fell, 7 or 8 experts swarmed towards Wu Patian and war god Sui and launched their attacks at the same time. Rumble. Although Wu Patian and war god, he were stronger in a one-on-one fight, they were facing 7 to 8 intermediate worldly immortal experts. Under such circumstances, they could only defend passively and were unable to launch an effective attack. Pucci! Pucci! The battle was almost one-sided. After only 3 minutes, Wu Patian and war god, he spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time, and their auras began to drop rapidly. Early stage, human immortal, half-step human immortal. In just a few seconds, Wu Patian and war god he's auras had dropped to the half-step human immortal realm, which was equivalent to the Sage Peak realm. At this moment, they no longer had the ability to fight against intermediate worldly immortal experts. After another minute, Wu Patian and war god he were finally caught by the gray-robed elder. Slap, slap, slap. As soon as he caught Wu Patian and war god the gray-robed elder raised his right hand and slapped their cheeks several times. Scream. Why didn't you scream? The gray-robed elder stared at Wu Patian and war god and said coldly, "If it wasn't for the ancient god's son, I would have cut you into pieces." Humph! If you have the guts, then kill us. Otherwise, when our reinforcements arrive, only death awaits you." Wu Patian coldly snorted. "Oh, reinforcements? I would like to see what kind of reinforcements you have." The gray-robed elder crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Wu Patian with interest. "I won't take you away for now. I will wait for you here for 5 minutes. Let's see if your friends will arrive after 5 minutes." The reason why the gray-robed elder dared to be so arrogant was because he felt that there were no experts in the immortal spirit realm, and he wanted to vent his anger. Wu Patian and War God, he were the strongest experts in their respective regions, but their cultivation was only at the early stage human immortal realm. How powerful could their friends be? Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. At first, Wu Patian and War God, he were still praying that Ningyu would come. After all, they had already crushed the crystal ball that Ningyu had given them. But as time passed, the anticipation on their faces dimmed. Perhaps Ningyu had forgotten about them? Pa, pa, pa. 5 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. The gray-robed elder clapped his hands gently 3 times and looked at Wu Patian. "I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. If that's the case, I have to take you away." Ha ha ha. As he spoke, the old man threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Moreover, as the gray-robed elder was laughing, he suddenly lifted his right leg and gave 2 consecutive kicks. His kicks landed precisely on Wu Patian and War God Crane's buttocks. These 2 kicks directly kicked Wu Patian and the War God Crane far away, causing them to fall heavily on the ground. Crack, crack. Their front teeth fell to the ground, and 2 of their front teeth fell out. Ha ha! The gray-robed elder laughed maniacally again when he saw Wu Patian and War God, his embarrassed faces. "Don't you think it's too early for you to be happy?" However, before the gray-robed old man's maniacal laughter had faded away, a calm voice was heard in the area. The gray-robed elder's expression changed. Even he did not notice that there was someone hiding in the surroundings. "Who is it? Hurry up and come out. Don't play tricks here." The gray-robed elder suppressed the worry and nervousness in his heart and shouted, "As you wish." Buzz, buzz. A buzzing sound came from the void, and a few martial artists slowly walked out from the void. The martial artist at the front was in his 20s or 30s, and he was slightly skinny. Ningyu. That's right. The martial artist was none other than Ningyu. Behind Ningyu were Zhao Ruwei, the human demon, the Dark Emperor Ning Lu, and the rest. Gasp! The gray-robed old man sucked in a breath of cold air when he sensed the aura of the human demon in Ningyu's group. His face turned deathly pale. No matter how stupid the gray-robed elder was, he knew that Ningyu and the rest were stronger than him. The gray-robed elder stood on the spot, trembling. Chapter 1976. It wasn't that the old man didn't want to run, but he knew very well that he wouldn't be able to escape even if he tried his best. After all, the pressure from Ningyu and the others was so great that he didn't even dare to move. Ningyu! Wu Patian and the Divine Crane let out a sigh of relief when they saw Ningyu. They were initially worried if Ningyu would show up, but now that Ningyu and the others were here, they were relieved. "It's only been a few days, but you've already reached the human immortal realm." Ningyu ignored the gray-robed elder and turned around to look at Wu Patian and the War God Crane. "Congratulations." "Sai, what's there to congratulate? It's all thanks to the great change of heaven and earth. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to reach the human immortal realm for the rest of our lives." Wu Patian and the Divine Crane sighed at the same time. It was true. If it wasn't for the fact that the plane barrier had loosened, they wouldn't have been able to reach the human immortal realm even if they had 2 lifetimes. "Why are you being hunted?" Ningyu didn't talk too much about Wu Patian and the Divine Crane's cultivation. Ningyu could tell that the old man's cultivation was at the middle stage human immortal realm. The fact that they were able to hold on until now despite being surrounded by 8 middle stage human immortal realm cultivators showed that the old man and the others weren't trying to kill Wu Patian and the Divine Crane. Under such circumstances, Ningyu naturally had to ask for the reason. "I think an ancient god's son asked for us," Wu Patian said after some thought. "Ancient god's son?" Ningyu frowned slightly. After all, those who were called godsons were at least at the peak of the half-step heaven immortal realm. Some of the more powerful divine princes even had one or even two great path powers in their bodies. Ningyu kicked the old man's butt and asked, "Who's an ancient god's son? Tell me now." I'll speak. Gu Shensi is the peerless godson of the ancient demon sect. He's several times stronger than the Broken Cloud sect's peerless godson. Although he was kicked in the butt by Ningyu, the gray-robed elder did not dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction. He explained hurriedly. Broken Cloud sect? Ningyu furrowed his brows and asked, "What is the name of the Breaking Cloud sect's peerless godson?" Divine Son of Destruction, the gray-robed elder replied. So it was him. Ningyu nodded. Since Gu Shensi was several times stronger than Divine Son of Destruction, it meant that he most likely had two or even three great path powers. After all, the Divine Son of Destruction was an expert who possessed a great path power. Where is the ancient god's son? Ningyu's expression was indifferent as he looked at the gray-robed old man. The ancient god's son should have reached the entrance of the Myriad Demon Ridge. The gray-robed old man didn't dare to dally and said hurriedly, "The entrance to the Myriad Demon's Ridge?" Ningyu furrowed his brows slightly. Back in the City of Demons, he had interrogated the mid-level half-step Heaven Immortal and learned that the seal of the Myriad Demon's Ridge would only loosen after 7 days. In other words, only then would everyone have a chance to enter the Myriad Demon's Ridge. Even if the ancient godson was in a hurry, he wouldn't go to the Myriad Demon's Ridge and wait there, right? Why is the ancient godson going to the Myriad Demon's Ridge now? Ningyu asked in a deep voice. The ancient godson found many peerless godsons to go with him, saying that he wants to open the Myriad Demon's Ridge in advance. The gray-robed elder said, Opened the Myriad Demon's Ridge in advance? He has to be capable of that. Ningyu snorted and said, "All of you, open your minds and let Wu Patian and the war god Crane control them. Otherwise, you will all die. Why should we open our minds? Offending us is equivalent to offending the ancient god's son, and anyone who offends the ancient god's son will die." The martial artist with the crew cut took a step forward and said coldly. At this moment, the martial artist with the crew cut obviously didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. After all, the martial artist with a crew cut had followed the ancient godson to the celestial spirit realm, and everyone was very respectful to them. Even the godsons of some small sects were very respectful to them, because they were the ancient godson servants. Although the martial artist in front of them had a very high cultivation level, he was still a little lacking compared to the godsons of other sections. Even the godsons of other sects were very respectful to them, let alone Ningyu and the others. Bang! As soon as the martial artist with the crew cut spoke, the gray-robed elder kicked his knee, causing him to kneel down. The gray-robed elder was furious. The reason why he had served Ningyu so carefully and told him everything he knew was so that he could survive. In the end, the words of the martial artist with the crew cut made Ningyu's face darken. Obviously, Ningyu was ready to start a massacre. In order to save himself, the gray-robed elder decided to sacrifice the martial artist with the crew cut. Crack! He raised his right leg and kicked the head of the martial artist with the crew cut. A crisp sound rang out. At this moment, the head of the martial artist with the crew cut exploded, and he died on the spot. Even his primordial spirit couldn't escape. The martial artist with the crew cut can't speak. I've already taken care of him for you. After killing the martial artist with the crew cut, the gray-robed elder looked at Ningyu and said respectfully. Ningyu smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the remaining 6 martial artists. Ningyu's intention was very clear. He wanted the gray-robed elder to kill the remaining 6 martial artists. Otherwise, the gray-robed elder would be the one to die. How could the gray-robed elder not know what Ningyu was trying to do? He clenched his fists tightly, and the veins on his body bulged. Kid, don't be so arrogant. When the ancient god's son comes, it will be the time of your death. You want to sow discord between us? That's impossible. We've been through life and death together for so many years. How could you? Uft. The last cultivator had only spoken halfway when he stopped abruptly and spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Obviously, the gray-robed elder had attacked. In order to survive, the gray-robed elder didn't care about their friendship. He used all his strength. Uft, uft, uft. Since the other martial artists didn't know what was going on, the gray-robed elder killed 3 martial artists in the middle stage of the human celestial realm in an instant. Seeing the gray-robed elder killing each other, the remaining 3 martial artists in the middle stage of the human celestial realm opened their mouths slightly. They raised their right hands and pointed at the gray-robed elder. They even stuttered, "How dare you, crack?" The gray-robed elder didn't care about the reactions of the others. He only cared about his own life. He raised his right hand and twisted the neck of another martial artist in the middle stage of the human celestial realm. Open your eyes wide in your next life. Not everyone can be offended. The gray-robed elder attacked the remaining 2 martial artists in the middle stage of the human celestial realm again. When the gray-robed old man made his move, Ningyu stood on the spot without moving. Ningyu had a whole new level of respect for the gray-robed elder. He knew how to endure and kill decisively without any hesitation. Chapter 1977. Uft. Although the gray-clothed elder and the other cultivators were all at the mid-stage of the human immortal realm, the gray-clothed elder was much stronger than them. In just a few seconds, the other cultivators were killed by the gray-clothed elder. After killing the other warriors, the gray-robed old man turned to Ningyu and said, "I apologize for their inappropriate words and actions to you again." The gray-clothed elder was very sincere. After all, his life was in Ningyu's hands. If Ningyu didn't forgive him, he would definitely be killed. Ningyu obviously didn't want to kill the gray-clothed elder. He waved his hand and asked, "As Gushinsi's servant, you should have a way to contact him, right?" "I do have a way to contact Gushinsi," the gray-clothed elder said hurriedly. "Contact Gushinsi now and ask him where he is and if he entered the Myriad Demon Ridge." Ningyu thought about it and decided to let the gray-clothed elder contact Gushinsi. Although he had the power of 6 great paths, judging from the reactions of the crew-cut elder and the gray-clothed elder, Gushinsi's strength was definitely not weak. If he could figure out Gushinsi's strength before he met him, then he wouldn't have to fight him in the dark. Okay. The gray-clothed elder took out a scroll and threw it into the air with a flick of his wrist. Puffed, puffed. The next moment, the gray-clothed elder opened his mouth and spat out a cold light. Not long after the cold light collided with the scroll was set ablaze. With a sizzling sound, the space trembled and an illusory figure appeared in front of everyone. "Didn't I tell you not to contact him unless it's absolutely necessary?" The illusory figure shouted at the gray-clothed elder as soon as he appeared. However, before the illusory figure could finish his words, he saw Ningyu standing next to the gray-clothed elder and his voice stopped abruptly. The illusory figure was none other than Gushinsi that the gray-clothed elder had mentioned. As the peerless divine prince of the ancient demon sect, the ancient divine prince could naturally sense that Ningyu had the power of the Great Path. However, Gushinsi wasn't sure how many Great Path powers Ningyu had. "Who are you?" Gushinsi's expression was cold as he said to Ningyu, "Why are you with my servant? You're not qualified to know who I am." Ningyu looked at Gushinsi and said indifferently, "You're just a soul clone. Killing you is as easy as killing a dog." "Humph. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue?" Gushinsi's expression was cold as he coldly snorted, "I don't care who you are, but you're finished. Any martial artist who dares to speak to me like that must die." The moment the word "die" was uttered, Gushinsi's figure flashed, and he rushed toward Ningyu. Although it was just a shadow, Gushinsi's attack was as powerful as a peak half-step heaven immortal. Even a martialist with the power of the Great Path might not be able to block Gushinsi's attack. Gushinsi has at least 5 or even 6 Great Path powers. Ningyu narrowed his eyes as he watched Gushinsi charge toward him. He had a rough idea of what was going on. However, if Gu Shinsi had come with his real body, Ningyu might have been afraid. However, Gu Shinsi was just an illusory clone, so Ningyu was not afraid of him. Kill. Without any hesitation, Ningyu took out the red demon sword and slashed in the air. Swoosh! At first, there was only one sword radiance in Ningyu's attack, but as it moved forward, the sword radiance split into 2 and then into 4. In the short span of a second, the sword radiance had divided into 16 rays. Whoosh! The 16 sword radiances surrounded Gu Shinsi from 4 directions. You overestimate yourself. Gu Shinsi's eyes turned cold as he growled. Today I'll show you what true strength is. Swoosh! Although that was what Gu Shinsi said, his actions were completely different. Just as he was about to come into contact with Ning Yu's sword radiance, he suddenly turned around and rushed toward the human demon on the other side. In Gu Shinsi's opinion, he couldn't afford to offend Ning Yu for now, but he could still afford to offend the human demon. After all, the human demon was just an ordinary upper-level half-step heaven immortal without the power of a great path. However, Gu Shinsi was happy a little too early. Although he had dodged Ning Yu's sword radiance attack, he had no way of hurting the human demon. There was only one reason. Zhao Rui, who was beside the human demon, had made her move. No matter what, Zhao Rui had 2 great path powers, and her strength was much stronger than Gu Shinsi's soul avatar. Zhao Rui's attack was ordinary and blocked Gu Shinsi's attack with just 1 move. What? Seeing that Zhao Rui had easily blocked his attack, Gu Shinsi's jaw dropped. His eyes were wide open and his face was filled with disbelief. He finally started to take Zhao Rui seriously. Ever since he had appeared, his attention had been on Ningyu, and he hadn't paid much attention to Zhao Rui. And now, the strength that Zhao Rui displayed was already very troublesome to deal with. No, you have the single spiritual body. Gu Shinsi couldn't help but exclaim as soon as he noticed Zhao Rui. As the supreme divine son of the ancient demon sect, Gu Shinsi naturally knew how terrifying the single spiritual body was. Not only did the single spiritual body cultivate quickly, but it was also faintly related to the Thousand Demons Ridge. Under such circumstances, Gu Shinsi was naturally very excited. Although he had joined forces with the divine sons of many forces to attack the seal at the entrance to the Thousand Demons Ridge. Even so, he wouldn't be able to break the seal in a short time. Zhao Rui was different. As long as he could bring Zhao Rui to the Thousand Demons Ridge, there was a high chance that she could break the seal in advance. Ha! I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Thinking of this, Gu Shinsi threw his head back and laughed wildly. Then he waved his hands and his body spun rapidly. As Gu Shinsi's body spun, his body began to transform into a physical body. His strength also began to increase rapidly. As Gu Shinsi's body spun, Ningyu didn't disturb him. Instead, he crossed his arms in front of him and looked at him with interest. Very good, very good. Ningyu was very excited and happy. As long as Gu Shinsi's real body didn't come, no matter how much Dao power he had, it would be useless. The power of the great path used by the ancient god might even become food in Ningyu's mouth. After all, Gu Shinsi didn't know that Ningyu had 6 Dao powers, so he would definitely underestimate Ningyu. Buzz. Time flew by. 3 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Gu Shinsi's body also became physical. Shape. 4 Dao powers? Ningyu frowned slightly when he felt the aura of the Dao powers coming from Gu Shinsi. His expression became serious. Chapter 1978. 8 Great Path Powers. That's right, Gu Shinsi's real body should have 8 Great Path Powers, or even more. After all, this physical clone already had 4 Great Path Powers. One could imagine how terrifying Gu Shinsi's real body was. You will all die today. After summoning the 4 Great Path Powers, Gu Shinsi looked at Ningyu coldly and said in a deep voice, "If you know what's good for you, kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. As long as I'm happy, I might leave your corpse intact. Gu Shensi, save me. The gray-robed elder felt Gu Shensi's strength increase and shouted hurriedly. The gray-robed elder had been waiting for this moment. When Gu Shensi appeared, the gray-robed elder wasn't in a hurry to ask for help because he knew that Gu Shensi's soul clone was no match for Ningyu. But now, Gu Shensi had summoned 4 great path powers, and his strength had increased qualitatively. That was why he started asking for help. Noisy. Gu Shensi's eyes turned cold as he glanced at the gray-robed elder. Swoosh! In a split second, a cold light flew out and charged directly at the gray-robed elder. Uft! The cold light was very powerful. In the blink of an eye, it struck the old man's chest. Although the cold light hit his chest, the gray-robed elder didn't die on the spot. He raised his right hand and pointed at Gu Shensi, stuttering, "Why did you—" Before the gray-robed elder could finish his sentence, Gu Shensi shot out another cold light. This cold light was also very fast and hit the gray-robed elder's heart. With his heart pierced, the gray-robed elder didn't even have time to speak before he died on the spot. Crack, crack! After killing the gray-robed elder, Gu Shensi cracked his neck and looked at Ningyu. Surrender or die. You want me to surrender with just 4 great path powers? Are you sure, Liji? Ningyu looked at Gu Shensi as if he was looking at an idiot. Rumble. As he spoke, Ningyu suddenly released his aura. So much so that Ningyu completely released the aura of the great path and suppressed the ancient Shensi. Hiss! Gu Shensi couldn't help but gasp when he sensed the power of the great path emanating from Ningyu. The power of 6 great Daos. No matter how stupid the ancient Shensi was, he could tell that Ningyu had the power of 6 great Daos. Retreat. Gu Shensi was indeed the peerless divine prince of the ancient demon sect. He had a good grasp of timing. He stomped his feet on the ground and dashed toward the myriad demons' ridge. He only had 4 powers of the great path, while Ningyu had 6. Under such circumstances, there was no way he would be a match for Ningyu. If it wasn't his doppelganger, he might be able to contend against Ningyu with his trump card. However, this was a physical doppelganger, so it was much weaker than his original body. In fact, when he was in a high-level plane, Gu Shensi had used 4 powers of the Great Path to fight against a martialist with 6 powers of the Great Path. At that time, Gu Shensi had used his trump card, battle experience, and the strength of his soul to kill the martialist with 6 powers of the Great Path. Compared to that time, the situation now was completely different. The difference was huge. Since you're here, don't leave. Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground and slashed with the red demon sword. Whoosh! The 6 powers of the Great Path wrapped around the red demon sword and slashed toward Gu Shensi's head. Block it! In a moment of desperation, Gu Shensi had to stop running and fight against Ningyu. Gu Shensi knew that if he just ran away, he wouldn't be able to escape. If he stayed and fought against Ningyu, he might have a chance of survival. However, Gu Shensi had obviously underestimated Ningyu's strength this time. Puffed. In just one exchange, the red demon sword had pierced his body. Damn it! Gu Shensi cursed. Gu Shensi hated the gray-robed elder to the core. If the gray-robed elder hadn't burned the scroll to contact him, he wouldn't have rushed over. Now, this avatar of his would definitely be killed. However, for Gu Shensi, the death of his physical clone wasn't the main concern. The main concern was whether the 4 powers of the Great Path that he had summoned would be destroyed by Ningyu. Once the 4 powers of the Great Path were destroyed, his physical body would also be severely injured. He wouldn't even be able to control the exceptional divine princes in front of the myriad demon ridge. Therefore, he had to take the 4 powers of the Great Path with him no matter what. Hold on. How about we make a deal? Gu Shensi looked at Ningyu and said hurriedly, I'll tell you something, and you let me go. You talk too much. Ningyu didn't plan to give Gu Shensi a chance. He waved the red demon sword in his hand again and charged forward. Once an exceptional divine prince like Gu Shensi was given a chance, the consequences would be unthinkable. Explode. Gu Shensi had no choice but to explode his physical clone. Moreover, as he was exploding his physical clone, Gu Shensi gritted his teeth and also exploded one of his powers of the Great Path. Gu Shensi felt his heart bleed as he made the decision to abandon the power of the Great Path. Oh no! The explosion of the power of the Great Path made Ning Yu's expression turn extremely serious. He used his storage ring to put Zhao Heng, the human demon, the Dark Emperor, and the others inside. After all, the human demon and the Dark Emperor couldn't possibly withstand the aftermath of the explosion of the power of the Great Path. Let's attack together. After Ning Yu put the human demon and the others into his storage ring, he turned to look at Zhao Rui and said in a low voice. Although Zhao Rui only had 2 powers of the Great Path, Ning Yu knew that she was a single spirit body, and her strength was completely comparable to a cultivator with 3 or even 4 powers of the Great Path. Now that Gu Shensi had exploded one of the powers of the Great Path, he only had 3 powers of the Great Path left. If Zhao Rui fought Gu Shensi alone, she might be able to kill Gu Shensi. Ning Yu's goal wasn't to kill Gu Shensi, but to obtain the 3 powers of the Great Path from him. Otherwise, Ning Yu definitely wouldn't have let Zhao Rui attack. Devour. Zhao Rui had been waiting for this moment. Gu Shensi had originally come for Ning Yu, so even if Zhao Rui wanted to devour the power of the Great Path from Gu Shensi, she was too embarrassed to make a move. Now that Ning Yu had asked her to make a move, she finally had a reason to do so. The moment Zhao Rui made a move, Ning Yu's eyes widened and his mouth was slightly agape with disbelief written all over his face. This was because Zhao Rui had turned into an afterimage and rushed in front of Gu Shensi's 3 powers of the Great Path. A terrifying suction force shot out from Zhao Rui's mouth and swallowed Gu Shensi's 3 powers of the Great Path before Ning Yu could react. Gulp! Seeing Zhao Rui devour Gu Shensi's power of the Great Path so easily, Ning Yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Chapter 1979. Burp. Zhao Rui patted her belly and burped after devouring the 3 Great Path powers of the ancient god Sun. However, just as Zhao Rui burped, she seemed to have thought of something. She turned her head and looked at Ning Yu, whose mouth was slightly open on the other side. Her face was full of embarrassment. Obviously, the ancient god's 3 Great Path powers should have belonged to Ning Yu. It was a bit unreasonable for her to directly devour Gu Shensi's great Tao energy. I'm fine. How could Ning Yu not know what Zhao Rui was thinking? He waved his hand and said, Ancient Shensi is troublesome. It's all thanks to your help this time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to kill him with my strength alone. Buzz. Just as Zhao Rui was about to speak, the void in midair suddenly split open, and then an illusory figure appeared. Ancient God's son. Seeing the illusory figure that suddenly appeared, Ning Yu and Zhao Rui's expressions turned solemn again. The solitary spirit body is indeed worthy of being called the solitary spirit body. I, Gu Shensi, will remember this. We will meet again. As he spoke, Gu Shensi entered the void, disappearing without a trace. A single spirit body can actually devour the power of the Great Path. After the ancient god's son disappeared, Ning Yu frowned slightly, feeling somewhat puzzled. Based on his understanding, all martial artists who possess the power of the Great Tao should be able to devour the power of the Great Tao. Why did the ancient god's son mean that only a single spirit could devour the power of the Great Tao? In high-tier planes, even some heavenly immortals might not necessarily be able to devour their grand Tao powers. At this moment, the human demon and the Dark Emperor had already emerged from their storage rings. Hearing Ning Yu's confusion, the human demon explained, only those with special talents or special constitutions could devour others' grand Tao energy and make it their own. I see. In that case, it's because I have the divine war body that I can devour the power of the Great Path. Ning Yu was suddenly enlightened. Zhao Rui had the solitary spirit body, while he had the god of war body. Be it the solitary spirit body or the god of war body, they were both ranked at the top of the myriad race spirit body role. Under such circumstances, It was understandable that he could devour the power of the great Tao. What do we do now? Are we going to the myriad demons' ridge or back to the city of devils? The Dark Emperor looked at Ningyu and asked. Ningyu thought for a moment and said, "Pack up and return to the city of demons first." Ningyu did not forget that the peerless divine princes from the sacred divine palace, the primeval demon sect, and the devil's restaurant would arrive at the city of devils soon. Since he and Zhao Rui had a special physique that could devour the power of the Great Path, why didn't they rush back to the city of demons and wait? Anyway, the peerless divine princes of the sacred divine palace, the primeval demon sect, and the devil's restaurant definitely had the power of the Great Path. What Ningyu and the others didn't know was that at the same time, the space at the gate of the city of demons trembled, and then several cultivators appeared. These martial artists were not very old and were about the same age as Ningyu. However, they were all peak half-step heaven immortals. Without a doubt, these martial artists were the peerless divine princes of the sacred divine palace, the primeval demon sect, and the devil's restaurant. Previously, it was said that the peerless divine princes of the sacred divine palace and the devil's restaurant would arrive at the city of demons in advance, while the peerless divine princes of the devil's restaurant would only arrive 3 days later. However, after Ningyu and the others left the city of demons, the disciples of the three forces who were hiding not far away from the city of demons secretly contacted the peerless divine princes through the secret techniques of their sections. Under such circumstances, the peerless divine princes of their sects naturally burned their blood essence to rush over. Under the powerful deterrence of their common enemy, Ningyu, the peerless divine princes of the three forces put aside their former enmity and joined forces. Among them, the peerless divine prince of the primeval demon sect was called Divine Prince He. The peerless divine prince of the sacred divine palace was called Divine Prince Wu. The peerless divine prince of the devil's restaurant was called Divine Prince Mo. On the surface, the peerless divine princes of the three forces seemed to be evenly matched, and none of them could do anything to the other. However, from where they stood, one could vaguely see that the divine prince of the devil's restaurant had a slightly higher status. "All of you, come out." The divine prince took a step forward and unleashed his aura, crazily pressing down on the city of demons. Whoosh! Under the terrifying pressure of the divine prince's aura, several half-step heaven immortals in the city of demons flew out involuntarily. "Where are Ningyu and the others?" The divine prince looked at the many half-step heaven immortals in front of him and asked without beating around the bush. "They left the city of demons after eradicating the disciples of your three factions." An inferior half-step heaven immortal answered with a trembling voice. "Why did they leave?" The divine prince continued to ask. "It seems like Zhao Rui's human immortal tribulation is coming." The inferior half-step heaven immortal answered honestly. "Why did Ningyu only kill the people of the three forces and not you?" The divine prince's face turned cold, and his aura crazily pressed down on the inferior half-step heaven immortal who spoke. Crack! In the face of the divine prince's aura, the inferior half-step heaven immortal who spoke fell to his knees, and the bones in his body made cracking sounds. Bang! In the blink of an eye, the body of the inferior half-step heaven immortal suddenly exploded and turned into nothingness. Hiss! The surrounding warriors couldn't help but gasp when they saw the death of the inferior half-step heaven immortal. They wanted to run, but they didn't dare to. That was because the demonic godson had given them too much pressure. It was even more than what Ningyu had given them previously. Everyone in the city of demons must die. The divine prince's eyes widened. He stomped on the ground and leaped into the air. He waved his hands repeatedly, and suddenly a black gas flew out of his sleeves. The black gas grew more and more, and almost in an instant, it enveloped the entire city of demons. My eyes. Why can't I see? My Yuan Qi. Why can't I use my Yuan Qi? Not good. Someone is attacking the city of demons. We must leave the city of demons quickly. Yes. Let's hurry to the city of demons before it's too late. Many warriors in the city of demons were affected by the black demonic chi. Some couldn't see with their eyes, and some couldn't use their yuan chi. Hence, they rushed to the city gate tower of the city of demons in a frenzy. Swoosh! However, it was obviously too late for them to escape now. God Princes He and Wu, who were next to the Divine Prince, moved instantly and blocked in front of the city gate. Puffed, puffed, puffed. The few martial artists who ran fast were killed by Godson, He and Godson Wu, as soon as they reached the city gate tower. The remaining warriors were stunned when they saw the warriors in front of them being killed, because the pressure that Godson, He and Godson Wu had given them was too terrifying. Refine all of them. In the air, the Divine Prince suddenly pressed down with his hands, suppressing the black gas that enveloped the city of demons. At the same time, the Divine Prince even took out a black gourd. Swish! Chapter 1980. Swoosh! As soon as the gourd entered the city of demons, it turned into a shadow and dashed left and right in the city. Moreover, the gourd constantly emitted black gas that wrapped around the warriors in the city. Every warrior that was wrapped by the black gas instantly shriveled and turned into a pile of white bones. Devour. Not only did the black gourd devour the warriors' flesh and blood, but also devoured their yuan chi, soul power, and primordial spirit. Almost in an instant, the black gourd and the black demonic gas eroded 1/10 of the warriors in the city of demons. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before all the warriors in the city of demons were devoured. Hee, demon god's son, if your demon god gourd can be nourished by so many warriors, its power will probably double. God's son, he of the primordial demon sect, crossed his arms in front of his chest and smiled at the demon god's son. That's right. Since the warriors in the city of demons have been devoured by your demon god gourd, you should leave Ningyu and Zhao Rui to me and God's son he. God's son Wu of the sacred divine palace nodded and said, that's right. Sure. Once I devour everyone in the city of demons, we'll go look for Ningyu. The demon godson smiled and said, I promise I won't interfere when you deal with Ningyu. Thank you very much. Godson, he and Godson Wu cupped their hands at the demon godson and then looked at the city of demons without saying anything. The city of demons had already become hell on earth. All sorts of screams, curses, and unwillingness could be heard. The half-step heaven immortals who had been captured by the demon god, Sun, huddled together and shivered. They were desperate, because at this moment, even a fool would know that they wouldn't have a good time. We have to think of a way to leave. Among the half-step heaven immortals, a white-robed old man whispered to the person beside him, now that the demon godson's attention is completely on the city of demons, it's a good chance for us to break out. The white-robed old man's wishful thinking, he did not want to be the first to break out of the encirclement, because he knew that the first to do so would definitely be killed by the demonic godson. What he needed to do was to make the other martial artists scatter and flee while he waited for an opportunity to strike. Damn it, I'm going all out. I'm going west. All right, I'll run east. Count me in, I'll run north. At most, I'll be a good man again in 18 years. I'll run south. I'll run from above. I'll run underground. Under the incitement of the white-clad old man, the other half-step heaven immortals became agitated. One by one, they decided to rise up and flee in all directions. Seeing the half-step heavenly immortals secretly communicating with one another like fools, the corners of the white-clad old man's mouth curled up slightly. He could not stop himself from feeling excited about his wishful thinking. Listen to my commands later. As soon as I give the order, run away immediately. The white-robed old man transmitted his voice in a low voice. Then what about you? A martial artist asked with concern. Don't worry about me. You guys go first. I'll bring up the rear. The white-robed old man said righteously. All right, thank you very much. At this time, the half-step heaven immortals who wanted to escape did not think too much about it. Instead, they were thinking about how to escape without being noticed by the demon son and divine son he. Drip, drip. Time ticked by. More than half of the martial artists in the city of demons had been killed or injured. The white-clad old man remained motionless and did not say a word. The half-step heaven immortals around the white-clad old man could not wait any longer. They all shifted their gazes to the white-clad old man, waiting for him to give the order. Another minute or so passed. Go! The white-clad old man's back was facing the demon's son. He opened his mouth slightly and transmitted his voice in a low voice. Swoosh! The white-clad old man's words became the fuse, causing the half-step heaven immortals around to move and flee in all directions. In all directions in the sky and on the ground. These half-step heaven immortals resorted to all sorts of means, and each of them used their own trump cards. Overestimating yourselves. However, they had obviously underestimated the demon's son's strength and concentration. As soon as they moved, the demon's son's eyes turned cold, and he casually flicked a few beams of cold light. The cold beams shot out by the fiend celestial sun were extremely powerful. They dealt with these mid-level or low-level half-step heaven immortals, like chopping melons and vegetables. In just 3 seconds, all the fleeing half-step heaven immortals were captured and killed in one fell swoop. Swoosh! At this time, the demon god gourd in the city of demons suddenly sprang out and sucked the dead martial artists into it. Gulp! The white-clad old man could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva when he saw how quickly the demon's son killed the fleeing half-step heaven immortals. Plop! He knelt on the ground and said to the demon's son, "This has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me." Nothing to do with you? The demon's son first threw the demon god gourd into the city of demons, then looked at the white-clad old man and said with interest, "You are a smart person to want to use this method to surrender to me." Yes, I want to surrender to you," the white-clad old man hurriedly said. "Sorry, I don't buy it." The demon's son shook his head and raised his right hand, ready to strike down. "Don't. I have a secret to tell you." The white-clad old man's eyes widened when he saw the demon's son's action. "Oh!" The demon's son put down his palm and looked at the white-clad old man. "Let's hear it." The white-clad old man wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, "Ningyu has 3 great Tao powers." In order to prevent the demon's son from killing him, the white-clad old man started to brag. After all, he only knew that Ningyu had defeated the limitless divine son of the Heaven Secret sect. He did not know how many great Tao powers Ningyu had. Ha ha! Emo Shinsi wasn't the only one laughing when he heard the white-robed old man's words. Even he and God Wu couldn't help but throw their heads back and laugh. 3 great Tao powers. It might be a deterrent to other peerless divine sons, but not to the 3 of them. This was because the weakest among them, Godson He and Godson Wu, both had 4 great Tao powers. As for the most powerful demon son, it was estimated that he had 5 or even 6 great Tao powers. Moreover, they were all peerless divine sons of their respective sects and had many powerful trump cards. It could be said that if the 3 of them combined their trump cards, they could even fight against a real sky immortal, let alone Ningyu, who had 3 great Tao powers. If that's all you know, then I'm sorry, but you can go to hell now. The demon's son shrugged and said, "The Heaven Secret sect. Oh yes, I also know that the peerless divine son of the Heaven Secret sect, Godson Tianlong, has also come down." The white-clad old man seemed to recall something and said hurriedly, "Godson Tianlong." This time, the demon godson and the rest could not help but look serious after hearing the white-robed elder's words. Godson Tianlong was the number 1 divine son of the Heaven Secret sect. Chapter 1981. When will Godson Tianlong come to the myriad demon ridge? Demon Godson took a deep breath and stared at the white-robed elder. "Where did you hear this news?" he asked in a low voice. To be honest, although the demon godson looked serious, he didn't really believe the old man's words. He knew that Godson Tianlong was preparing to become a sky immortal and wouldn't have the time to descend from a high-level realm. "I have a friend from the Heaven Secret sect. He told me about this." The old man in white hurriedly explained. "Your friend? Never mind. I'll just devour your memory." The demon god, son, frowned slightly. Then he stomped on the ground and dashed out. Almost in an instant, the demon godson arrived in front of the old man in white. He raised his right hand and placed it on the old man's head. Sizzle. Sizzling sounds rang out as the white-clothed old man's body gradually shriveled up. Not long after, he turned into a sheet of human skin. How is it? Seeing the demon godson devour the old man into a piece of human skin, God children Wu, and he asked hurriedly. They were worried that God's son Tianlong would really come to the myriad demon ridge. Given his strength, even if the three of them joined forces, they wouldn't be able to resist him. It was said that God's son Tianlong already had the ability to kill sky immortals. There's a 50% chance that God's son Tianlong will come. The demon godson asked with a serious expression. 50% chance. Godson he and Godson Wu looked at each other and saw the doubt in each other's eyes. If he came, he came. If he didn't, he didn't. 50% chance? What did that mean? If Godson Tianlong cultivates the ninth great Tao, then he will come to the myriad demon ridge to look for opportunities, the demon godson explained. If he can't cultivate the ninth great Tao, then he will continue to stay in the great Tao pool of the Heaven Secrets sect. Then what do we do now? God children he and Wu asked at the same time. Nothing. The demon godson rolled his eyes and leaped into the city of demons. Godson he and Godson Wu's faces darkened as they watched Mo Shensi leave. Originally, they had come to kill Ning Yu and snatch Zhao Rui. But now, God Prince Tianlong of the Heaven Secrets sect might descend. Their enemy suddenly changed from Ning Yu to God Prince Tianlong. Let's wait a little longer. Anyway, the Divine Prince of Heaven Dragon is here and the Fiend God is there. Divine Child, he said. That's right. Once the Sky Dragon Godson and the Demon Godson fight, we will find a way to leave. God Child Wu agreed. The two of them were smart. They didn't want to be enemies with the Divine Prince of the Heaven Fortune sect. After all, the Divine Prince of Tianlong was extremely overbearing. Anyone who dared to offend him or steal from him was his enemy. He would never let them go. Therefore, Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu choosing not to be enemies with Divine Prince Tianlong was the wisest decision. Voila! At the same time, in the city of demons, the demonic sun turned into an afterimage, coordinating with the demonic god Gord to kill in the city of demons. Under the combined efforts of the demon god Gord and the black demonic Chi, more than half of the people in the myriad demon city had died. Now that the demonic sun had joined the battle, the city of demons instantly became an empty city. Whoosh! After killing and refining the martial artists in the city of demons, the demonic sun jumped to the side of Divine Child He and Divine Child Wu and let out a long sigh. With a shake of his wrist, the demon god Gord appeared in his hand. Although the demon god Gord looked ordinary, the power contained within it was extremely shocking. What do we do now? However, Divine Child He and Divine Child Wu did not pay attention to the demon god Gord. Instead, they looked around and asked. The two of them were worried that the Divine Prince Tianlong would come to the city of demons and become enemies with them. Once that happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, the two of them wanted to leave the city of demons as soon as possible and find a place to hide in the Thousand Demon Ridge to temporarily avoid the brunt of the attack. As for Ning Yu and Zhao Rui, they would think about it later. Anyway, no matter how strong Ning Yu was, it was impossible for him to be stronger than the three of them combined. The demon godson opened his mouth slightly and wanted to say something, but he suddenly turned around and looked at the void in the distance. He squinted his eyes and said calmly, "Someone is coming." Whoosh, whoosh. Hearing the demon godson's words, Divine Child He and Divine Child Wu shifted their gaze to the void not far away. Buzz, buzz. Not long after, the void let out a buzzing sound. Then, a group of 3 martial artists appeared. These martial artists were none other than Ning Yu and the others who had hurried back after recuperating. However, Ning Yu let the Dark Emperor and Zhao Hang enter the storage ring first, leaving only him, Zhao Rui, and the human demon outside. Although the human demon had yet to recover to his peak state, after a period of recuperation, his strength had reached the peak of a half-step heaven immortal. As long as the human demon was given a little more time, he would be able to recover from the hidden injuries in his body and use the power of the great Tao. Under such circumstances, Ningyu let the human demon follow them. Otherwise, he would have let the human demon enter the storage ring long ago. Be careful. The three of them are very strong. As soon as they appeared in the void, Ningyu's face became extremely solemn. At this time, no matter how stupid Ningyu was, he could still see the difference between the demon god's son and the others. Among them, Divine Child He and Divine Child Wu only had 4 powers of the great Tao, while the demon god's son had 6. Among the 3 of them, the combat power of any one of them was stronger than the ancient god's son he had met before. After all, the ancient god's son had only come with a physical clone, while Divine Child He and the others had come with their true bodies. Ningyu wasn't afraid of the demon god's son, but he was worried that the human demon would be hurt, because it was too late to let the human demon enter the storage ring now. As for Zhao Rui, Ningyu wasn't very worried. After all, Zhao Rui had 5 powers of the great Tao. If I'm not wrong, you should be Ningyu, and she is Zhao Rui. The demon godson's eyes locked on Ningyu and Zhao Rui as he said lightly, "Who are you?" Ningyu asked. "He is Divine Child He of the primordial demon sect, and he is Divine Child Wu of the sacred divine palace." The demon godson first pointed at the 2 martial artists beside him, then at himself, and said, "I am the demon godson of the demon's restaurant." "Oh." Ningyu shrugged and answered casually, "Arrogant, ignorant, and arrogant." Seeing Ningyu's reaction, Divine Child He and Divine Child Wu roared at the same time, looking very angry. "I'm sorry, but I want to ask, is the situation in the City of Demons caused by you?" Ningyu looked at the ruins of the City of Demons and asked. "That's right, the City of Demons was indeed caused by us. By now, your friends should have died in the City of Demons." Chapter 1982. You seem to think that you have us for sure. Ningyu looked at the demon god's son, still looking calm and collected. Although the demon god's son had the power of 6 great paths, Ningyu was not very afraid. After all, he also had the power of 6 great paths. I will deal with Ningyu. You two deal with the others. The demon god's son held the demon god gourd tightly and stepped forward. "Don't. We already agreed that we will deal with Ningyu and Zhao Rui, so you just stay here and watch." Godsons He and Wu hurriedly said. They did not want the demon godson to make a move. From her point of view, once the demon godson made a move, Ningyu and Zhao Rui would definitely fall into his hands. This situation was clearly not what they wanted to see. "All right, since you two want to make a move, then make a move. I will watch from here." The demon godson shrugged and took a few steps back. Godsons He and Wu could not see how many great paths Ningyu had, but the demon godson could see it clearly. 6 great paths. The great paths on Ningyu's body were the same as his. They both had 6 great paths. The demon godson's original plan was for him to stall Ningyu and let godsons He and Wu deal with Zhao Rui and the old man beside Ningyu. However, since godsons He and Wu did not trust him, there was no need for him to get involved in this mess. Swish! Swish! As soon as the demon godson finished speaking, godsons He and Wu rushed towards Ningyu and Zhao Rui in a flash. The 2 of them had a clear division of labor. Among them, godson Wu would deal with Ningyu, while godson He would deal with Zhao Rui. As for the human demon at the side, he was ignored by them. The human demon did not have the aura of a great path, so there was no need for them to worry. "Zhao Rui, do you have the confidence to deal with the 2 of them?" Ningyu turned to look at Zhao Rui and asked as he watched godson He and godson Wu, who were charging towards him. In fact, Ningyu did not want to fight godsons He and Wu, because his attention was completely on the demon god's son. Although the demon god's son had not attacked him yet, he had to be on his guard. The demon god's son had 6 great paths and was extremely powerful. "It's easy for me to kill them. Zhao Rui's spirit body not only cultivated quickly, but was also known as invincible. Not only did the solitary spirit body cultivate extremely quickly, but it was also known to be invincible among those of the same cultivation level. Moreover, Zhao Rui fighting against Godchild, he and Godchild Wu, was not a battle between people of the same level. When she advanced to the peak of half-step heavenly immortal stage, Zhao Rui had 2 grand Dao energies. In addition to the 3 great path powers that she had devoured from ancient God, Zhao Rui now had a total of 5 great path powers, only 1 less than Ningyu. This was because both God He and God Wu only had 4 great path powers in their bodies. Under such circumstances, how could Godson He and Godson Wu be a match for Zhao Rui? Dying before Godson He reached Ningyu, Zhao Rui took a step forward and punched with her right hand. Zhao Rui's punch contained the power of 4 great Daos. Hold back. Zhao Rui did not need to use her full strength against Godson He. What she needed to do now was to hide her strength as much as possible while ensuring that she could kill Godson He. After all, her real opponent was the demon god's son and not Godson He. You also have 4 great paths. Feeling the 4 great paths in Zhao Rui's fist, Godson He's eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. Although he knew Zhao Rui had great paths, he did not know how many. In his opinion, no matter how strong Zhao Rui was, she would only have 1 or 2 great paths. But the current situation was completely out of his expectations. Let's attack together. In a moment of desperation, Godson, he shouted at Godson Wu, who was beside him. Their original plan was for him to deal with Zhao Rui and Godson Wu to deal with Ningyu. Now that Zhao Rui had displayed 4 great paths, Godson, he would definitely ask Godson Wu to help. Because Godson, he knew very well that he could not capture Zhao Rui with his own strength. He knew very well how terrifying a single spirit body was. Damn it, I'll spare your life for now. Godson, he knew how powerful Zhao Rui was, and so did Godson Wu. Therefore, Godson Wu first cursed at Ningyu and then went to deal with Zhao Rui together with Godson He. Rumble. The shock waves from the fight between the 3 pinnacle powerhouses spread in all directions. Luckily, Ningyu blocked the shock waves for the human demon at the critical moment. Otherwise, with the human demon's current strength, he would not have been able to withstand it. Zhao Rui is a big problem. On the other side, the demon god frowned slightly and thought to himself, as the peerless godson of the demon's restaurant and a terrifying existence with 6 great paths, the demon god could naturally tell that Zhao Rui had not used her full strength. However, even though the demon god could tell that Zhao Rui had not used her full strength, he did not know how strong Zhao Rui was. Under such circumstances, the demon god even wanted to help Godson He and the others and force Zhao Rui to use her full strength. Forget it. However, when the demonic god's son's gaze landed on Ningyu, his thoughts immediately vanished. No matter how strong Zhao Rui was, she could not be stronger than Ningyu. Therefore, his main target was Ningyu, not Zhao Rui. Rumble. In midair, Zhao Rui had already started fighting with Godson He and the others. Even though she had not used her full strength, Zhao Rui still had the absolute upper hand. It was only a matter of time before she killed Godson He and Godson Wu. Alright, senior human demon. You should have been a mid-stage sky immortal before, right? How much great path power do you have? While Zhao Rui was still fighting with Godson Wu and the others, Ningyu had already started talking with the human demon. Anyway, it was only a matter of time before Godson Wu and the others were killed, so Ningyu did not have to worry at all. At this time, Ningyu was talking with the human demon to make the demon god lower his guard. After all, the black gourd in the demon god's hand made Ningyu's heart palpitate. The weakest mid-stage sky immortal martial artist has about 100 great path power, the human demon explained. At that time, I had 500 great path power and was ranked in the middle among the mid-stage sky immortal martial artists. 500 great path power can only be ranked in the middle? Ningyu's expression couldn't help but become solemn. After thinking about it, Ningyu looked at the demon god gourd in the demon god's hand and asked the human demon, "Is that gourd in the demon god's hand a sky immortal grade Dharma treasure?" "It should be an early stage sky immortal grade Dharma treasure. It was once nourished by an early stage sky immortal martial artist." Chapter 1983. Its power is equivalent to a Heaven Immortal's all-out attack. Hearing this, Ningyu's expression became extremely solemn. Although it was the weakest Heaven Immortal, it was still a Heaven Immortal with 10 great Tao powers. Given Ningyu's current strength, he had no chance of winning even against a pinnacle half-step Heaven Immortal with 10 great Tao powers. Not to mention a Heaven Immortal with 10 great Tao powers. A Heaven Immortal and a half-step Heaven Immortal were two completely different concepts. Generally speaking, no matter how much great Tao powers a pinnacle half-step Heaven Immortal had, it would be very difficult to fight against a real Heaven Immortal. Even the weakest Heaven Immortal had a much stronger great Tao powers than a pinnacle half-step Heaven Immortal. This was because the Heaven Immortal tribulation could baptize one's great Tao powers and strengthen them tenfold. It could be said that the great Tao powers of a pinnacle half-step Heaven Immortal and a real Heaven Immortal were like a child and a strong middle-aged man. The difference was huge, and there was almost no chance of winning. Red Fiend. What level is the Red Fiend sword now? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu tried to calm himself down. Although the demon god gourd was strong, he was not to be trifled with. He had the Red Fiend sword as his trump card. Pinnacle Sage level. It's only one step away from a Heaven Immortal Dharma treasure. Red Fiend replied. What? Ningyu's face was filled with shock. To be honest, even Ningyu had not expected the Red Fiend sword to reach the Pinnacle Sage level. Although Ningyu knew that Red Fiend had been busy in the Red Fiend sword and had been asking him for Dharma treasures, elixirs, and everything else from the other divine princes, but the fact that the Red Fiend sword had reached the Pinnacle Sage level still shocked Ningyu. How confident are you that you can hold off the demon god's black gourd alone? Ningyu continued to ask. 50%. Red Fiend glanced at the demon god gourd in the demon god's hand through the Red Fiend sword. Red Fiend was the sword spirit of the Red Fiend sword and had an extremely keen sense of Dharma treasures. From Red Fiend's point of view, there was no artifact spirit in the demon god calabash. In other words, the demon god gourd could not unleash its full power. 50%. Ningyu frowned slightly as he calculated in his mind. To be honest, a 50% chance was enough for Ningyu to take a gamble. However, Ningyu would not foolishly make a move now. All he had to do was wait quietly for Zhao Rui to kill God, he, and the others. After all, at his level, even the slightest flaw could become a fatal breakthrough. He did not want the demonic godson to seize this opportunity. Later, I'll try to see if I can snatch Ningyu's power of the Great Path and merge it with mine. While Ningyu was deep in thought, the demon godson was also deep in thought. However, the demon godson and Ningyu did not think the same way. Ningyu was thinking about how to kill the demon godson, while the demon godson was thinking about how to snatch Ningyu's Great Path power. After all, to the demon god's son, Ningyu was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. As long as he made a move, he could kill Ningyu completely. 6 Great Path powers. As long as I can merge one of them, my strength will increase by several times. The demon godson's expression was solemn. In order to merge the Great Path power, one had to be extremely talented or have a unique physique. The demon godson's talent was not enough for him to merge the Great Path power, and his physique was not one of the top ones on the spiritual body roll. Therefore, the difficulty of merging the Great Path power was comparable to reaching the heavens. Boom! While Ningyu and the demon godson were deep in thought, a loud rumble came from the battlefield in the distance. Then, the two martial artists fell to the ground one after the other. Bang! Bang! 2 sounds rang out one after another, and the 2 martial artists fell flat on their faces. Without a doubt, These two martial artists were none other than God's son, He and God's son Wu. Even when the two of them teamed up, they couldn't hurt Zhao Ruwei. In fact, they were even seriously injured by Zhao Ruwei. Whoosh! Whoosh! After falling to the ground, God He and God Wu did not give up. Instead, they took out two flying swords from their pockets. Pseudo-heavenly treasure. Although Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu weren't as powerful as the Demon Prince, each of them still had a pseudo-heavenly treasure. The so-called pseudo-heavenly treasures were Dharma treasures used by Sky Immortals before they became Sky Immortals. Generally speaking, upon advancing to the Heavenly Immortal stage, 99% of martial artists would choose a new natal magic treasure. Only an extremely small portion of martial artists would continue to use their previous treasures. However, the vast majority of martial artists would not throw away the magic treasures they had used before. Instead, they would carry them with them. Although this kind of magic treasure was not nourished by a Heaven Immortal, it had been with a Heaven Immortal for a long time, so it was tainted with a trace of a Heaven Immortal's aura. The Dharma treasures in the hands of God's Son, He and God's Son Wu were exactly like that. I'm going to turn you into ashes today. Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu looked at each other, then immediately stomped the ground and rushed toward Zhao Ruwei. In fact, the two of them didn't want to use the pseudo-heavenly treasure. After all, it was their trump card, and it was what they relied on to gain a foothold in the Thousand Demons Ridge. That was because their pseudo-heavenly treasures could only launch 3 attacks, just like the Demon God Gourd. However, the power of the 3 attacks that the Demon God Gourd could launch was equivalent to the full power of a Sky Immortal Overlord. And the power of the 3 attacks that their pseudo-heavenly treasures could launch was only equivalent to the full power of a martial artist with 8 Dao powers. Humph! If you had real heavenly treasures, I might be a bit afraid, but since you're using pseudo-heavenly treasures, you still have to die today. Zhao Ruwei snorted. She was obviously not afraid of the pseudo-heavenly treasures. After all, Zhao Ruwei came from a superpower in a high-level realm, and she had a single spirit body. It was reasonable that she was not afraid of the pseudo-heavenly treasures. Boom! The battle broke out again. This time, Zhao Ruwei didn't have an absolute advantage. She could only slightly suppress Divine Prince He and Divine Prince Wu. Swoosh! At this moment, the Demon God Son suddenly moved. The Demon God Son had been paying attention to the changes in the battlefield. When Divine Prince He and the others took out their pseudo-heavenly treasures, he showed signs of wanting to make a move. Now that Zhao Ruwei and Divine Prince He were fighting fiercely, the Demon God Son found an opportunity and suddenly joined the battle. Oh no! Ningyu's attention was always on the Demon God Son. When he saw the Demon God Son make a move, he stomped on the ground and rushed out. The red demon sword in his hand slashed down. Whoosh! In a split second, several sword auras swept out and surrounded the Demon God Son from all directions. Your opponent is me. Don't get involved in their battle. After slashing with the sword, Ningyu looked at the Demon God Son and said coldly, "You overestimate yourself." The Demon God Son looked back at Ningyu and threw the demonic God Gourd in his hand. Chapter 1984. Red Devil. Seeing the Demon God Son throw the Demon God Gourd at him, Ningyu shouted and threw the red demon sword in his hand. What Ningyu needed was not for the Red Devil to control the Red Devil sword to destroy the Demon God Gourd, but to delay the Demon God Gourd so that he could have more time to fight with the Demon God Son. After all, he and the Demon God Son both had the power of 6 paths. He did not know if he could defeat the Demon God Son before they fought. Swoosh! The Red Devil had been waiting for this moment. As soon as Ningyu said that, he controlled the Red Devil sword to fight with the Demon God Gourd. Rumble! An earth-shaking rumble rang out. The clash between the Red Demon sword and the demonic god Calabash created a terrifying shockwave. The Red Devil sword was a top-grade, sacred-level Dharma treasure, while the Demon God Gourd was a heavenly treasure. On the other side, the Demon God Son saw that the Demon God Gourd could not defeat the Red Devil sword immediately. He frowned and stopped. So, it's a top-grade sacred-level flying sword with a sword spirit. No wonder. The demonic son only needed one look to see through the red demon sword. A top-grade sacred-level flying sword with a sword spirit could indeed fight against the demon god Gord. However, in the demon godson's opinion, even if the red devil sword had a sword spirit, it could only fight against the demon god Gord. It would be defeated sooner or later. After all, the demon god Gord was a heavenly treasure and had swallowed all the warriors in the city of demons. Under such circumstances, it would be too embarrassing if he could not defeat a top-grade sacred-level flying sword. Therefore, the demon godson only looked back and sped up. He wanted to catch Zhao Rui before Godson He and Godson Wu died. Where are you going? However, the demon godson's short pause gave Ningyu some time. At that moment, Ningyu had already arrived in front of the demon godson and shouted, "Your opponent is me. You overestimate yourself. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." The demonic godson knew very well that his slight pause just now had caused him to miss the best opportunity. Therefore, he decided to get rid of Ningyu first before dealing with Zhao Rui. Although Ningyu also had the power of 6 great Daos, the demonic son was not afraid at all. He came from a higher plane, and his martial arts were much stronger than Ningyu's. Ningyu did not have the aura of a higher plane, so Ningyu must be a native warrior of a lower plane. Almost all the people from the higher planes looked down on the martialists from the lower planes. It was natural for the demon godson to look down on Ningyu. Want to kill me? It won't be that easy. Ningyu's expression was grave. He gathered all the essence in his body on his fist and punched out. Crack! Ningyu's punch caused space to explode, and a huge crack appeared in space. Child's play. The demon godson did not take Ningyu's terrifying attack seriously. He raised his right leg and kicked Ningyu's fist aura at Ningyu's head. Bang! Bang! At the critical moment, Ningyu changed direction and punched out again, colliding with the demon godson's right leg. A muffled sound rang out. Then, Ningyu and the demon godson retreated dozens of feet at the same time. Again, after the attack, Ningyu did not stay put. Instead, he chased after the demon godson. This time, Ningyu did not use his essence chi. Instead, he wrapped the power of his great Daos around his fist. Although the demon godson saw that Ningyu had the power of 6 great Daos, Ningyu's 6 great Daos had already fused into one. They could be separated or combined. Do you think you are the only one with the power of a great Daos? Come out. Sensing the power of a great Daos contained in Ningyu's fist, the demon godson raised his head and shouted, refining all the power of 6 great Daos in his body. The demon godson's great Daos were obviously much thicker than the destruction godson's great Daos that Ningyu had killed previously. It could be said that one of the demon godson's great Daos was equivalent to 1.5 of the destruction godson's great Daos. Not good. The moment the demon godson's great Daos were released, Ningyu's expression changed. He realized that something was wrong. The demon godson's 6 great Daos were enough to match an ordinary warrior's 9 great Daos. How could they fight this? Ningyu knew very well that there was only one way. He had to join forces with Zhao Rui and use the red demon sword. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for them to defeat the demon godson. Crack! Crack! In the sky far away, Zhao Rui seemed to have sensed Ningyu's situation. She used all her strength and killed Godson He and Godson Wu in an instant. Moreover, after killing Godson He and Godson Wu, Zhao Rui also devoured a great Daos from each of them. Zhao Rui originally had 5 great Daos, but after devouring 2 great Daos from Godson He and Godson Wu, she had 7 great Daos. It was not that Zhao Rui did not want to devour all the great Daos from Godson He and Godson He, but they had self-destructed their great Daos. Go! Zhao Rui killed Godson He and Godson He, so she naturally took their pseudo-heavenly treasures. Zhao Rui shook her wrist and threw the 2 pseudo-heavenly treasures at the demon god Gord. At that moment, the red demon seized the opportunity to force the demon god Gord back and return to Ningyu's side. with two pseudo-heavenly treasures holding the demon god gourd back. The red demon and the red demon sword merged into one, becoming a complete flying sword. As for Zhao Rui, she used her great daos to wrap around her fist and threw a punch at the demon god. Feeling the fist coming at him from behind, the demon god's son quickly retracted the three great daos and turned to deal with Zhao Rui. The current situation was that the three great daos were dealing with Ningyu, while the other three were dealing with Zhao Rui. In the blink of an eye, Ningyu, the demon god's son, and Zhao Rui were fighting each other. In this move, the three of them were evenly matched. Crack, crack, crack. The demon god's son retreated slightly and summoned the demon god gourd to his hand. He looked at Ningyu coldly and said, "Very good. This is fun. Catch him alive." Just as Ningyu was about to speak, Zhao Rui, who was next to him, said. Hearing this, Ningyu's face darkened. Catch him alive? The demon god's son had 6 great daos. As long as he wanted to escape, even if he and Zhao Rui worked together, they might not be able to hurt him. You underestimate your own strength too much. Now, use your war god body's blood and try fusing it with your great Dao power. Zhao Rui saw Ningyu's confusion and sent a soul message to Ningyu. Ningyu was taken aback at first, but then he started to act according to Zhao Rui's instructions. Whoosh! As soon as Ningyu's great Daos merged with the blood of the divine war body, his aura increased at an alarming rate. Boom! As a muffled sound rang out, many black tribulation clouds suddenly appeared in the void. The Earth-level deity trial. Chapter 1985. Ningyu's mouth was slightly agape as he looked at the dark tribulation clouds that suddenly appeared in midair. He was dumbfounded. He had been deliberately suppressing the essence chi in his body because he did not want to undergo the earth immortal tribulation as soon as possible. He wanted to stabilize himself first. But the current situation left him with no way out. He could only bite the bullet and go ahead. Swoosh! The demon god's son saw the tribulation clouds in the sky and immediately retreated far away. The demon god's son was not that stupid to stop in the middle of someone else's earth immortal tribulation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Not only did the demon god's son retreat, but even Zhao Rui and the human demon also retreated. Ningyu's earth immortal tribulation was not the same as other martial artists. Other martial artists might still dare to stay in the middle of their earth immortal tribulation, but Ningyu's earth immortal tribulation could only choose to avoid it. This was because the power of Ningyu's earth immortal tribulation was comparable to an ordinary martial artist's heaven immortal tribulation. One could only imagine how powerful Ningyu's earth immortal tribulation was. Therefore, choosing to avoid the brunt of the attack at this time was the wisest decision. Swoosh! Although the demon god's son had retreated from Ningyu's earth immortal tribulation, he did not stay idle. Instead, he dashed towards Zhao Rui. Since Ningyu was undergoing the earth immortal tribulation, the demon god's son's plan was to get rid of Zhao Rui first before dealing with Ningyu. This was because it was still unknown whether Ningyu could successfully pass the earth immortal tribulation. The demon god's son did not want to foolishly get involved. You retreat. Seeing the demon god's son charging towards her, Zhao Rui pushed the human demon far away and leaped towards the demon god's son instead of retreating. Zhao Rui now had 7 Dao energies and was a solitary spiritual body. She might not be at a disadvantage when fighting the demon god's son. Rumble. The demon god's son and Zhao Rui clashed instantly. However, they did not dare to get too close to Ningyu. After all, a slight misstep would cause them to be dragged into Ningyu's lightning tribulation. 7 great Dao powers. After one move, the demon god's son and Zhao Rui retreated a few feet. Among them, the demon god's son stared coldly at Zhao Rui. As he was busy fighting with Ningyu, most of the demon god's attention was on Ningyu. As for the fact that Zhao Rui had 7 great Dao powers, the demon god's son was not particularly clear. Now, demon god's son's expression was very ugly. A single spirit body with 7 great Tao powers already had the capital to contend against him. Kill. The demon godson did not retreat. He held the demon god gourd and charged at Zhao Rue again. As the peerless godson of the devil's restaurant, the demonic godson had his own pride. He couldn't possibly leave. He wanted to get rid of Zhao Rue first, and then get rid of Ningyu. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread out, he would no longer have a place to stand when he returned to the higher planes. Rumble. Not far away, Ningyu's attention was on the tribulation cloud that was getting thicker and thicker in the sky. Previously, when he was undergoing his worldly immortal tribulation, Ningyu had spent a lot of effort to get through it. Now that he was facing an earthly immortal tribulation, Ningyu wasn't completely confident. Swoosh! In an instant, the first tribulation cloud was formed. It was as thick as a few people's waists. This tribulation cloud swooped down from the void and charged at Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. A peak half-step heaven immortal. Looking at the tribulation cloud that was charging at him, Ningyu's expression became extremely solemn. This was only the first tribulation cloud, but its power had already reached the peak half-step heaven immortal level. If this continued, wouldn't the power of the next few tribulation clouds be equivalent to an all-out attack from a heaven immortal? Break! Facing a peak half-step heaven immortal tribulation cloud, Ningyu didn't show any signs of fear. He casually threw a punch and smashed it directly onto the tribulation cloud. Bang! A crisp sound rang out. The first tribulation cloud instantly split open and dissipated between heaven and earth. Rumble. As soon as the first tribulation cloud dissipated, a rumbling sound came from the void, followed by the appearance of the second tribulation cloud. Hiss! Sensing the terrifying aura contained in the second tribulation cloud, Ningyu couldn't help but gasp at this moment, even though he was well prepared. 3 great Tao energies. The power of this tribulation cloud was actually equivalent to an all-out attack from a martial artist with 3 great Tao energies. Slash! Facing this tribulation cloud, Ningyu's performance wasn't that relaxed. He directly took out the red demon's sword and decided to use it to deal with the second tribulation cloud. The red demon's sword drew a mark in the air and then fiercely smashed onto the second tribulation cloud. Crack! Although the second tribulation cloud was equivalent to an all-out attack from a martial artist with 3 great Tao energies, under the powerful attack of the red demon's sword, it instantly disintegrated and dissipated between heaven and earth. After all, Ningyu had directly used his great Tao energies for this attack. Rumble. As soon as the first 2 tribulation clouds were dealt with by Ningyu, the void once again let out a series of rumbling sounds. Following that, a series of terrifying tribulation clouds instantly smashed down. F***CK. Seeing the tribulation clouds suddenly smashing towards him, Ningyu's mouth slightly opened, and he couldn't help but curse. This was because the power of these tribulation clouds ranged from a peak half-step heaven immortal to 5 great Tao energies. Moreover, Ningyu even discovered that the power of one of the tribulation clouds had reached the level of 6 great Tao energies. The greater the power of the tribulation cloud, the more terrifying the final baptism. Ningyu wasn't frightened by these tribulation clouds. Instead, he was very excited. When he was undergoing the great tribulation of human immortal, the power of the tribulation clouds was very strong, so the tribulation liquid was very useful for his baptism. Now, that his great tribulation of earth immortal had clearly increased the power of the tribulation clouds by several times, or even dozens of times, one could imagine how terrifying the final tribulation liquid would be. Ningyu, leave these tribulation clouds to me. However, just as Ningyu was about to use all his strength to deal with these tribulation clouds, he suddenly heard the voice of the Red Fiend in his ears. Hearing this, Ningyu was stunned at first. Then he said, "Is the Red Fiend going to devour them again?" Ningyu was very clear that when he was undergoing the tribulation back then, it was the Red Fiend that devoured the most terrifying tribulation clouds. Otherwise, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu would definitely be in danger. That's right, I want to use these tribulation clouds to advance the Red Fiend to the level of a heavenly treasure." The Red Fiend replied in a deep voice. The Red Fiend's level was only one step away from becoming a heavenly treasure. The Red Fiend's plan was to let the Red Fiend devour Ning Yu's tribulation clouds and use it to break through to the real heavenly treasure realm. After all, there was a huge difference between a peak sage-level Dharma treasure and a heavenly treasure. If the Red Fiend could advance from a peak sage-level flying sword to a heavenly treasure flying sword, not only would Ning Yu benefit greatly, but even the Red Fiend might advance from the great perfection of the human immortal realm to the earth immortal realm. Moreover, the Red Fiend didn't need to undergo the tribulation to advance. All right, I'll leave them all to you. Chapter 1986. Swoosh. After receiving Ning Yu's approval, the Red Devil controlled the Red Devil sword and charged towards the strongest tribulation cloud. If it was going to devour, it would devour the strongest tribulation cloud. As for the weaker tribulation clouds, the Red Devil didn't intend to devour them. It wanted to leave them for Ning Yu to deal with. Holy shit! Seeing the Red Devil avoid the weaker tribulation clouds, Ning Yu was dumbfounded. He originally wanted to watch the Red Devil's performance, but he had no choice but to make a move now. Although the tribulation clouds that the Red Devil avoided were weaker, it was still relative. With Ning Yu's current strength, it wouldn't be easy for him to deal with these weak tribulation clouds. All right, let's try the leftover materials from the lightning pool. Ning Yu was just about to make a move, but he seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly took out the leftover materials from the lightning pool from his storage ring. Previously, when facing the Dark Emperor in Ning Lu's human immortal tribulation, Ning Yu used the Red Devil sword to chop off a piece from the lightning pool. From Ning Yu's point of view, since it was a leftover material from the lightning pool, it should be useful for the tribulation clouds. Buzz. The leftover material from the lightning pool was just taken out by Ning Yu, and it kept shaking in Ning Yu's palm. It felt like it wanted to rush out. Indeed, if it wasn't for Ning Yu holding it tightly, it would have already rushed out. It's useful for tribulation clouds indeed. Seeing the movement of the leftover material from the lightning pool, Ning Yu was pleasantly surprised. Since the leftover material from the lightning pool was useful for tribulation clouds, didn't that mean that he wouldn't need to deal with tribulation clouds personally in the future? Go! Ning Yu temporarily withdrew his thoughts and flicked his wrist, throwing the leftover material from the lightning pool out. Whoosh! The leftover material from the lightning pool that Ning Yu threw out was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, instantly causing the tribulation clouds in the sky to go berserk. These berserk tribulation clouds rushed towards the leftover material from the lightning pool. It was as if they treated the leftover material as the lightning pool. The sudden change was indeed out of Ning Yu's expectations. He only thought that the leftover parts of the lightning pool could resist the tribulation clouds. He didn't expect that the tribulation clouds would treat the leftover parts of the lightning pool as a lightning pool and actually attach themselves to the leftover parts of the lightning pool. In other words, the leftover materials from the lightning pool were surrounded by several terrifying tribulation clouds, and each tribulation cloud could unleash an extremely powerful force. Can I take these tribulation clouds for my own use? Suddenly, Ning Yu had a thought. If he could make good use of these tribulation clouds, it would be equivalent to gaining a powerful trump card out of thin air. After all, the combined attack of so many tribulation clouds was still very powerful. What happened? Ning Yu was still thinking about how to control the tribulation clouds when Hong Fiend's expression changed drastically in midair not far away. This was because the Red Fiend realized that the strongest tribulation cloud he wanted to devour had actually turned around and charged to the other side. This situation was something that the Red Fiend could never have imagined. What the F***CK? In a moment of desperation, the Red Fiend turned his head to look at the tribulation cloud. He wanted to see where the strongest tribulation cloud would rush to. However, this one look made the Red Fiend swear. It was charging towards Ning Yu? The Red Fiend was dumbfounded. He wanted to use the terrifying tribulation cloud to advance the red fiend sword to the level of a heavenly treasure. Now that the tribulation cloud was charging towards Ningyu again, didn't it mean that his efforts were in vain? How is this possible? However, what shocked the red fiend was yet to come. The most terrifying tribulation cloud was not charging towards Ningyu, but the leftover parts of the lightning pool in front of Ningyu. Ningyu had once used the red fiend sword to cut off a piece of leftover parts of the lightning pool. The red fiend was very clear about this. However, in the red fiend's opinion, that piece of leftover parts of the lightning pool was useless other than being a little harder. Now, this piece of leftover parts of the lightning pool had absorbed the entire tribulation cloud of Ningyu's earth-level deity tribulation. How could the red fiend not be shocked? However, the red fiend did not lose his mind. Since the leftover parts of the lightning pool could deal with the tribulation cloud, he quietly retreated to Ningyu's side. Whoosh! It only took a minute for the leftover parts of the lightning pool to absorb all the tribulation clouds from the surface into his body. Swoosh! After absorbing all the tribulation clouds, the leftover parts of the lightning pool moved instantly and went into the void. Oh no! The sudden change made Ningyu's expression change drastically. He had already regarded the leftover parts of the lightning pool as his trump card. Now that the leftover parts of the lightning pool were trying to escape, how could he tolerate it? Therefore, Ningyu grabbed the red fiend sword and went straight into the void. Ningyu's goal was clear. He wanted to retrieve the leftover parts of the lightning pool. Boom! Not long after Ningyu went into the void, his earth-level deity tribulation ended. In midair, a golden pool of lightning gradually appeared. Without a doubt, the tribulation fluid in this lightning pool was the key to completing Ningyu's baptism. Strictly speaking, Ningyu's earth-level deity tribulation was not over yet. After all, he had not experienced the baptism of the tribulation fluid. Tribulation fluid. Although the demon god was fighting with Zhao Rui from afar, he had been paying attention to the changes on Ningyu's side from the corner of his eye. Especially when he saw the golden lightning pool in the void, his eyes lit up. He forced Zhao Rui to retreat and rushed towards the lightning pool. The demon god knew very well that as long as he could snatch the tribulation fluid from the lightning pool, he might even be able to cultivate a few more great Tao powers. At his level, wanting to rely on his own ability to cultivate the power of the great Tao was already very unlikely. Unless he had external help, it would be difficult for him to cultivate great Tao powers, even if he cultivated for 10 or even 100 years. Now that there was a shortcut, the demon god would naturally not let it go. How dare you touch my tribulation fluid? Die! Before the demon god reached the side of the lightning pool, a loud shout rang in his ear. Seeing this, the demon god's face turned ugly. The demon god naturally knew that this shout came from Ningyu. Now, he was faced with two choices. First, retreat and dodge Ningyu's attack. If he did so, he might lose the right to snatch the tribulation fluid completely because Zhao Rui was rushing over. Second, forcefully snatch the tribulation fluid and take on Ningyu's attack. Doing so might cause him to suffer serious injuries. No matter which choice it was very difficult for the demon god. Fight! In just 0.1 seconds, the demon god made his decision. He would take on Ningyu's attack and snatch the tribulation fluid. You overestimate yourself. Seeing the demon god's action, Ningyu suddenly appeared from the void and threw out the leftover lightning pool in his hand. Chi! Chi! The leftover lightning pool was very fast and almost reached the demon god's back in an instant. At the same time, the terrifying tribulation clouds on the leftover lightning pool exploded and smashed towards the demon god's back. Puffed. In just one move, the demon god's back caved in from the impact. Fresh red blood came out of the demon god's mouth. If the demon god had not transferred the great Tao powers to his back at the critical moment, he would have been in trouble. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.